get started. Hi, everyone. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. 5:34. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's really good to see so many faces out here. Thank you for coming. You can come anytime. All right, so today is February 7th. We're having the Middleton School, February 6th, excuse me, Middleton School Committee. And we're going to start with recognition of audience members. Anybody want to introduce themselves?
George.
Yeah. Hi, George.
George Dow, Finance Committee.
Thank you.
Go right along.
Oh, Stacy Butler, sixth grade teacher at Hal Manning.
Melissa Betancourt, ELA Curriculum Specialist.
Christine Elliott, Director of Curriculum.
Lexi Tomasi, 6th grade student.
Andre Malazzi, 6th grade student.
Sydney Morin, 6th grade student. Sophia Darlin, 6th grade student. Ivy B. Show, 6th grade student.
Eric Anthony, 6th grade student.
Kylie Lodge, 6th grade student.
Mary Kate Pimenta, 6th grade student.
Kaylee Mancini, 6th grade student.
Amanda Libby, kindergarten teacher. Alex Thompson, 1st grade teacher.
Maria Tomasi, parent.
Antonetta, parent.
John Moran, parent. You can't escape.
Carol Mancini, parent.
Ashley Anthony, parent.
Rich Malati, parent.
Stephanie Lodge, parent.
Brian Donald, parent. Danny Show, parent.
Great. All right, is there any remarks from the public? You want to start with the presentation? Yes. Okay, great.
Okay. So Melissa Betancourt, ELA Curriculum Specialist and Social Studies.
Oh,
And-
Melissa, I'm sorry. I just forgot one
Steve,
thing. Christy
Steve.
Carroll is on speaker with us. I apologize.
Oh, great. Nope, no worries.
And we do have one other member who is coming a little late tonight, but if we have any motions that need to be made as the night goes on, everything has to be roll call. And we'll pass her along. Okay, thanks.
Speak into the microphone too. So, Melissa Betancourt, ELA Curriculum Specialist in Social Studies, and Deidre Baker, Technology Integration, and Stacy Butler and I, we worked on a 6th grade project for a PBL project for our new social studies standards. So it kind of came out for two reasons. One is we had a change of social studies standards, so it was a good opportunity for us to build some new things. We also wanted to integrate some of the new PBL, create something that's engaging, hands-on. We study the regions of the world. One of the regions we start with is Latin America, so we do South America now, Caribbean nations, and Central America, and that is new for us, so we had a whole new opportunity. The ancient civilization that we study in Latin America is the Maya. So it was a great opportunity to create this new project for them, and there's an overarching theme for the whole year. Whenever we study an ancient civilization, they need to study the 8 aspects of a complex civilization. I swear I know them, but I'm a little nervous, so I'm going to read them to you. Cities and locations, religion, economics, specific jobs, social classes, government, writing, art, architecture, and public works. And so that they will revisit that every time that they talk about an ancient civilization. And you will hear it in their presentation. It was part of their project. So, driving question.
So the driving question that the kids had to ultimately answer at the end that drove all their research was, how can we as social scientists teach others that the contributions and innovations of the Maya civilization had a tremendous impact on our modern day world? So they took a lot of information they got that they learned about the Maya civilization and actually compared it to and how it enhances what they do today.
Sure. I'd like to let the school committee know and everyone at the table that the write-up for this project is on the screen, projected, And I emailed it to everyone, so you have it. And it just details what we did.
It's part of a blog.
It's
so-
a blog. It's my blog. So follow my blog if you're not already. So the students had a chance to show their learning in multiple ways. Not only tech, we gave them choices of creating paper products as well. So some students chose to create a newspaper, a paper book where they typed up the information and glued it into a book, and they like to draw. So that the big push for that was to draw. They were given a choice of creating an online book through an app called Book Creator, and they were given a choice to create a website. Well, most of them chose the website. They were excited about it. It was new for them. It's through Google Sites, and they will discuss that tonight. So on this blog post, there is on the bottom, there's an example of one of the websites. I'm going to add all of them. We are just now finalizing it throughout the whole 6th grade. There's also a video we're going to show at the end where we created it with a green screen. And another group chose to be reporters in the Maya civilization, and we're finishing that project. So that will eventually come up on this blog post. So check back at the end of the week. All right.
So all 6th grade students did participate in this. Susan McGrath's the second teacher. She was working a little bit behind us, so her things aren't quite finished. She's wrapping it up this week. So they all did, the whole 6th grade did do it. Do you want to show the video?
Sure. When they were researching, they had to, they were focusing on the 8 characteristics of a civilization. But when they were researching, they came up with some fun little trivial facts about the Maya that might not have fit into their topic, but they thought it was pretty neat. So it's called the Did You Know?
Welcome to the Did You Know? Did you know that the Maya made thousands of paper books? And actually, only 4 were found.
Did you know that the Mayas used a primitive form of tear gas made of hot peppers? Did you know that the Maya invented saunas?
Did you know that the Maya invented basketball? Did you know that the Maya ate chocolate?
Did you know the Maya played a game that was mixed between soccer and basketball?
Did you know the Maya believed that the earth was created by one deer?
Did you know that underneath Mayan cities was limestone?
Did you know that 5 million people still speak 70 Mayan languages?
Did you know that mice store their food and water in terracotta pots?
Did you know that among the earliest Maya, only one language existed during the pre-classic period? Did you know that the Batavs were like the modern-day police? Did you know that the Maya civilization actually built their pyramids to observe astronomy? Did you know that writing was developed in Mesoamerica 700 BC? Did you know that the Maya people are still living today? Did you know 85% of the Maya glyphs have been decoded? Did you know the Maya civilization was the most dominant civilization?
Did you know that in modern-day Mexico and Central America, around 5 million people speak some 70 Mayan languages?
Did you know the Mayan population was at least 5,000 to 50,000 people? At its peak, it also reached almost 2 million people. Did you know the Maya had chocolate?
Did you know that the Maya read top to bottom and we read left to right?
Did you know that the Mayas played a game called Polka Talk in stadiums?
Did you know that the Maya invented astronomy, the calendar, and hieroglyphics? Did you know that the Maya believed that the earth was held up by a big crocodile who swam in a very large pond? Did you know that the Maya thought the world would end December 12, 2012? 12.
Did you know Christopher Columbus saw a canoe built by the Maya in 1502?
Did you know that when the Spanish arrived, they mistaken Maya hieroglyphics for drawings of hideous monsters and devils?
Did you know
So when the Maya reached the peak of their population, they could have had over 2 million citizens of Maya.
Did you know wealthy people can be priests in the Maya civilization?
No, I didn't.
Did you know that kings lived in palaces in the center of the city? Oh my god! Oh my goodness! Oh
Yep. Come on up.
Everybody. You guys can stand next to each other, just face. There we go.
You're not going to quiz us, right? That was hard.
No, and they don't want you to quiz them.
Fair enough.
Just be sure that if you're all going to speak, just be sure to grab the mic there and pass it right down the line, okay?
Oh, you did.
Are they speaking or waiting for questions?
What are they doing? Are they speaking
Yeah, I
to
have
you,
a
Tree?
question for them, for each kid.
Okay.
Lexi, you can go first. So Lexi, did you enjoy presenting your information to the expert panel that came into class?
Yes.
Were you a little nervous?
Yes.
Thank you, Lexi. Andre, what was your favorite part of the project?
Learning about the Mayan jobs.
So that was the specialization you had?
Yes.
Good, thank you. Sophia, so prepared. Did you like learning about the Maya this way? For example, you did research, you were with a team, meeting with the expert panels, or would you rather have read from a textbook?
Learning about the Maya this way was much more enjoyable than reading from the old, boring textbook. Because you are more engaged and are less likely to get frustrated to give up. If something isn't working, you can just do what you want and not what the textbook or the worksheet say. When you have group mates, you can say, hey, does this make sense? Instead of being so unsure and erasing your work. And when you're in a group, you can depend on each other instead of depending on a bland textbook.
Thank you, Sophia. Sydney, did you enjoy researching on your own, taking your own notes, and summarizing your information for the project?
I did enjoy researching on my own. It gave me the chance to take credit for my own hard work. For my group, I was the lead researcher. It was the best group job in my opinion. If one of my group members was struggling on research, I could jump in and help.
Thank you, Sydney. Ivy, what are a couple of things you learned about the Maya through this project?
Mostly about how civilized they were. They had a 62-mile road and had a full language of writing. And the great thing about how this project worked is because we got to review everyone else's work, so we actually learned through reviewing their work instead of just reading off the textbook.
Thank you, Ivy. Jack, what did you find challenging about the project?
I think it was the way to word everything and how to put it into the paragraph form.
Kind of putting things in your own words. It's hard. Thank you, Jack. Kylie, what was the most interesting fact you learned about the Maya?
I think it was how everything was so specific, how they did things a specific way, and then we do it today.
Good. Thank you, Kylie. Mary Kate, did you like having a choice of projects? So in the beginning you had 8 different choices. Did you like having that choice?
I made a website, and I thought it was more interesting to do instead of writing it down on paper, creating a Google Doc, because I can look back at it later, and now I know how to create a website.
Thank you, Mary Kate. Caitlin, what did your group choose? Why did your group choose to design a website?
We wanted to do something other than just Google Docs or Google Slides, and we wanted to create something not just for ourselves, but for the teachers and the students, future students.
Thank you.
Can we ask
Oh,
a
yeah.
couple questions?
Yeah?
Okay, because I have some too.
Okay. How long did the project take you? Do you know how long you worked on it in class? Or?
A couple weeks, I guess. I don't remember exactly.
Time flies when you're having fun, yeah.
Should we do more learning like this or less learning like this in our classrooms? You've got the mic, so go ahead.
Yeah.
I think we should do more learning like this because it's more fun and like it actually makes you like want to learn about it.
Yeah, I really liked what, I'm sorry, your name, on the very, close, right there, second to the end. Mary Kate, I really like what you said about, you talked about the website, right? And, you know, those are the conversations we've been having as a leadership team and as teachers and as a school committee, talking about what are the skills that our kids can learn along the way while they learn all the stuff that we need to teach you when you're in school. And so you learned how to build a website along with learning all about the Mayan civilization as well. And so those are the conversations we're often having, are what are the skill sets that we can teach you along with the content that you also learn in school as you make your way through school. So it's exciting to hear that you engaged in a project like this. Were you on different teams? Like, who was on the same team? Just raise your hand if you were on, raise your right hand if you were on one particular team together.
Why is it gotta be right hand?
Okay, raise your left hand if you were on one particular team together. Do the hokey pokey and turn around. That's what it's all about. So were they teamed together? Are these like kids from various teams?
From 3 different homerooms.
Got it,
And it's
okay.
kids that volunteered, so they weren't necessarily
Perfect,
together.
on a team in the classroom.
Yeah.
Great, great, great. That makes sense.
But how many of you worked together on a team?
4.
4 per team.
4, sometimes 5, depending on the math. There were 8 characteristics, and they focused on 2. So there were 8 on their website or their project, and they were responsible for those.
And they received, we had expert panelists come in, Mr. Sforza, Dr. Carrero, Mrs. Elliott, and some others came in, gave them feedback about 3/4 of the way through their project, so give them some reflection. They get some other feedback from others other than us of the feedback. So I think that that was, did you like that, Lexi? Was it scary? You didn't know you were going to. You know you got to talk.
What about, tell them about the peer feedback, because that was mentioned, where they got to share each other's work.
Right. So that's the key, right, to the PBL, is that not only do they need to learn their part, they have to learn the other 6 characteristics that they didn't study. So how does that happen? That happens through peer review, peer talking. They're the expert in their group. They know that they have to teach the others about their aspect. And then we also had them then come together. So you might be doing cities and government, then they would come together, share their research. If they were missing something or found something else, they would share that. So it was kind of like that, bring them together in alike, and then have them teach their groups. Did I forget anything?
Well, so
I could tell.
if
she
there were
can't.
4 groups in a classroom, there are 4 students who had religion.
Right.
So they got to meet together and share each other's website and information, not just website, they had other things. And they got to give each other feedback, and they could use some of the information if they thought that that was pretty cool, that they wanted to talk about that. But they got to, and then they helped critique their work as well and say, oh, you know, maybe you should think about it this way. They had some prompts, some very constructive prompts for each other, and great feedback. So that was how to give feedback, how to take feedback and make your changes. It was really good.
You guys should know that we're figuring out ways to make this more and more common in terms of how you learn as you make your way through the Middleton schools. And so just know that that's part of the job and part of the work that we're doing. We're working as a team to try to figure that out, to try to figure out how do we develop a broader and deeper student experience, and then a broader and deeper staff experience as well. And it's great to see staff working together on a project also. So it's a nice combination of both. So thank you for that very much.
Great, thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great.
Yeah, that was.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. They
That was
love
great.
learning.
Oh, yeah.
You could tell.
We're
You could
doing
absolutely tell.
Asia now, and they want to do the same thing.
Were there any repeat kiddos who, like, remember last year we did one and the year before we did one? What did we do 3 years ago or 2 years
We had
ago?
the
What was
water.
the project?
The one.
The water.
That,
That was, well, the 6th graders came to present in the previous year, but it was a different project.
Different project.
Yes.
And then Syria, saving Syria. And then what was the water one?
Oh, I love that.
Down the Mississippi?
Oh, down the Mississippi. So they wouldn't be, in 6th grade yet.
They're
Right.
5th graders.
Okay.
So 5th grade's working on a PBL for the Bill of Rights.
Okay.
So
And that's a debate, right?
They will, in May. That's in May.
that'll be, yeah, May.
Oh, that's good.
Cool.
Oh,
They're building out.
all right.
Steve, can you pass the speaker around, back around, front? Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you
Thank
coming.
Reports from other committees.
Great.
We have start time.
Yep, so 2 updates, and Amy and I can kind of volley back and forth on this one. So, start time update is that, Christy, can you still hear us?
I sure can.
Great. So a start time update, as you may recall, the chairs get together, the chair of Topsfield, Boxford, Middleton, and then Masco chairs as well. We had met a couple of times in the fall. We had received some information from School Bus Consultants, who was the consultant that was hired. We asked NRT to look at it. NRT was delayed because of, they didn't have enough drivers, and I remember that whole story around they were delayed in terms of having an opportunity to look at the information. When they did, they realized that they would not be able to implement the recommendations from NRT without, 24 buses. I mean, it was a large amount of buses that would have been needed. So they provided an alternate solution, or an alternate scenario. And so in the drive, you'll see a folder titled Start Time Info. If you double click on that, you'll see something that reads NRT Best Scenario December 2018. And so this was a document that the committee, which got together last night, had an opportunity to, was it last night? 2 nights ago?
Yeah, 2 nights.
2 nights ago.
Monday night.
So this was NRT's sort of best bus scenario based upon all the data and feedback from school bus consultants. And what they sort of landed on would be, and then this is just nothing more than a scenario. That's it at the moment. But where they landed would be a Masco start time of around 7:45, adding 10 buses total, and that would mean 10 buses up at Masco mostly. We would be adding a Middleton bus, a Topsfield bus, a Boxford bus. Again, this is just a math problem, a scenario that was worked out as one option. Elementary, Middleton would still be at 8:30, Topsfield and Boxford would be 8:45. They'd be able to do some late bus work at Masco, and so not anything other than just a scenario that they had presented. This was being presented, I think, at Masco School Committee tonight, just as a presentation. Like, this is where NRT landed in terms of their best bus scenario. We wanted to make sure we shared it with our committee. We have Topsfield tomorrow night and have a meeting in Boxford School Committee on Saturday, and we'll share that with Boxford on Saturday. Accompanying this scenario document is a document, and Amy, you might be able to speak to this more than I can, letter to Masco School Committee that is also in there, and that is being shared tonight. And this was a conversation that we had at committee 2 nights ago.
Right, so this letter came out of the December Masco meeting where the Boxford, the Topsfield, and the Middleton Elementary representatives felt that Masco didn't think that we were coming to the table with, not all of Masco, but there was some concern that we weren't coming to the table with enough compromise, that we had so many guardrails. And so we sort of re-vetted all of that on Monday night. We explained that we're really not one. We're a tri-town, but we have 3 totally different school days and different responsibilities, extracurricular activities, enrichment activities that contribute towards our guardrails, and that as a whole, each of our committees had made the decision back in September or October that we were going to create these guardrails and then come together in good faith. So we, Katrina and Carol, so Katrina from Topsfield and Carol from Boxford are representing the 3 of us tonight at the Masco School Committee to share this letter to explain that that we are still, here in good faith. We want to work closely with Masco. We believe in a smooth transition. We believe in strong health and wellness for all of our students. And one of the ideas that came out of the other night was maybe to be meeting quarterly or something along those lines in the future to talk about issues that are overlapping between the elementary and the middle and the high school. So keeping a health and wellness going. Where it used, I think historically this was happening probably more than 6 years ago, and then it just stopped. So to have a representative from each of the committees to stay on a joint committee, or to have something with all of us. So that is up for discussion.
Yep.
Related to start time or unrelated, or In addition to start time,
In addition to start time, looking
other
at.
topics would be discussed as well.
Exactly,
Okay.
sleep time,
Yeah.
school, homework.
Okay.
All the other things that we've been uncovering over the past 3 years
Yes.
Yeah.
as we've been going down this road.
I think one of the things that the elementary kept saying was, you know, that sleep is part of a bigger portfolio of ideas around student wellness and health, and, but we just wanted to make sure this committee and all the committees had the latest information from that start time group, and, you know, we'll see what, we meet again next Monday, because by next
Right.
Monday, all the committees will have had a chance to meet with their committees, just to kind of share information and feedback, and I think from that meeting, we'll figure out some next steps.
Right, exactly. Any questions or comments?
So the meetings over the next few weeks, prior to us getting back together, is what's gonna happen? I guess that part
So if you
I'm
look at.
confused about. So
if-
what's gonna happen over the next few
If you
weeks?
look at the NRT best scenario.
Yep.
Revised bell time bus routes document, that is what is being brought to Masco tonight. It's being brought to Middleton right now, Topsfield and Boxford this week. And then, based on your feedback and comments, we're coming back to the table on Monday to determine if this scenario, for example, is something we can move forward on. If not, what are we gonna do from there?
And it would not be for September of 19, it would be a September of 20 conversation.
Right.
So this scenario was sort of NRT's best work around meeting all of the guardrails that were kind of set forth from each of the committees.
Right. What some of the conversation was that we were talking about on Monday is that all the buses would have a little bit of a later start time. Some of them in Boxford that are currently starting before 6:30 wouldn't start before 7. So some children, or, you know, young adults or teenagers, would have a nice change in their sleep, where others, it might just be 5 or 10 minutes. So it's sort of like, a little bit like the discussion that we've had here about if we add a bus, is it, you know, affecting all the students, or is it affecting a group of our students? So that was something, and then the cost of the buses as well. So we're talking about adding 10 more buses, which would be, we would be adding 1 more bus, but there would be, Masco would have an enormous expense for a 7:45 start time.
Which we, as a town, share a portion of that, a third of that.
As, yes, as a tax base, yes. Yep,
Right.
yep,
Hi, Mark.
absolutely. Hey, Mark.
So did this get to the objective, I mean, from the beginning, it was like, we want to start at 8:30, right? Okay, so, so they wanted to start at 8:30 because it was important that children got more sleep. I know we had sort of separated the two and said, well, if they can get more sleep, because we separated and said, if they can get on the bus, you know, let's start with the bus and what time they get on the bus versus what time school starts, I guess. We had talked about that, right?
Yes.
And so does this, like, close that gap if they're starting to get on the bus at 7 o'clock versus 6:45? Like, is that starting to close the gap even 15 minutes more, even though they're not?
No,
What
it's a
what
great
benefit
question.
is this to
think
the
that's-
children at Masco?
Yeah, I think that's the intention. You know, 7:45 start, right there, there's 15 minutes.
Yep.
Right, because it was 7:30 in the past. And then not starting any buses before 7, right, no pickups before 7 also adds for those kids that have the 6:15 bus that rolls in.
Yeah.
You know, there's time gained there as well. So I think that's the intention of trying to move in a direction that meets all of the guardrails.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's looking at start of, you know, when they get on the bus
Correct.
versus when they get into school.
Correct. So you don't have as long of a bus ride, so you don't have as long of a bus ride, you're able to stay in bed a little bit
Yeah,
longer.
get more
That plus the 15-minute, you know, delay by starting at 7:45 as opposed to 7:30.
So I know we can't anticipate what Masco's going to talk about today, but based on your meeting, did you meet with Masco, a rep from Masco Monday?
We just had Bill there, the
Okay.
chair, and Kevin Lyons, the
Okay,
superintendent.
all right. So I don't know if you're ready to share, but like,
They hadn't unveiled this
Okay.
to the committee yet. We had seen it first, so we don't know. But theirs are videotaped as well, so we should be able to watch it tomorrow. Or maybe Friday.
Yeah, probably Friday. Yeah, all the
No
weekend.
pressure.
Exactly. Some more to come, you know, I
Okay.
think it's a proposal where, nobody gets everything kind of a thing, you know what I mean? It's one of those sort of situations, and, we'll see how it's received, among all the different committees.
Right, and we'll share what you're
Yeah.
saying as a concern. Are there any other thoughts in favor, against, questions, anything you want, us to bring back?
Well, it would be also, sorry, it would also be interesting to get the what-if scenario. So what if we can pass one, what if we take this to the town vote, and Middleton can afford one, Boxford isn't willing to,
Right.
there's a lot of what-ifs. And is there any what-if scenario, ways to mitigate, or ideas around that?
I think that's probably a phase 2 conversation, depending upon what the initial feedback on this is.
Okay.
To go to what
Okay.
if before, it might be a non-starter, like this might be a non-starter.
Exactly.
So if it's a non-starter, then the what ifs become, what else? Right? So,
Right, and it was pointed out to us that the cost of the buses will most likely be going up
yeah,
when this contract is over, and we have to renegotiate in 2021.
yep.
So we have to consider that as well.
So, if you use today's prices of $58,000 a bus, Masco needs 10 buses, there's $580,000.
Yeah.
Mark, just so you know, Christy is joining us remotely tonight.
Hi, Christy.
Mark says hello, Christy.
Hello.
Okay, we good?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. How about communications?
Yep, we brought the team back together last week, I think it was, and we had a quick meeting to review the update so far from the vendor that we're working with to do some of the redesign of the website. It's looking good. We did sort of realize as a committee that we had picked a certain theme for the website that as a subcommittee we all really liked, and the vendor was starting to build something that I think he liked, like, oh, this looks really good. So we're just trying to pull him back and say, really love the artistic vision, but we wanted to kind of stick on a theme and stay with the theme. And so they're in the process of continuing to work on that, but it was nice to finally see something different than what we currently have.
Great.
So that's going well. So we'll have another update. I think we have another meeting in early March, and I'll be able to share some links with this committee to give you an idea of what some of the new site will look like. But much cleaner and neater and more 2019 as opposed to,
Excellent.
yeah, 1999. So that's good.
Good, okay. Approval of previous minutes. So those are in our folders under January 2nd, 2019. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to quickly look through it. Any comments?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you,
second it.
Kristen. Thanks, Fred. So we have to do roll call because Christy is on
Yep.
speaker. So Mark, if you're,
Hi,
Aye.
say your name.
Mark Mareski, M-O-R-A-C-H-I.
Thank you.
Fred Clapp. Aye.
Kristen Richardson, aye.
I'm gonna abstain. Amy Karas, I wasn't at the meeting.
Christy Carroll, aye.
Okay, great. Thank you. Moving into reports of superintendent.
Yep, so around our safety team, our cabinet that we have working, ask Mark to jump in here as well. So just an update on the emergency app process that we've been engaged in. We have Mark from here, Sharice from Topsfield, Terry Tillene from Boxford, who has worked on that cabinet with me around school safety. We had started to vet out a number of applications. We did some online webinars with a number of vendors. And as I started to go through that process, I reached out to Steve Burke at Masco. Steve's the Director of Safety and Security up at Masco. And Steve started to jump on a few of the webinars with us as well here. From the elementary perspective, a company called Crisis Go was emerging as the top vendor that would really solve a lot of the needs that we have in terms of, a panic button on a phone, and, the cavalry will arrive very quickly, and you can communicate very quickly, and there's a reunification piece that goes along with it as well, in the event that you ever had to do a full evacuation and checking kids in and checking kids out, and it was a real full-service application. As you may recall, Masco uses CopSync or Yeah, I think it's called CopSync is the program that they use, or Enforce Technology, that might be named differently now. And so Masco's used that product for a number of years. So the next phase of that was sort of a K-12 group to have these vendors come in and do a more formal presentation, other than the sort of quick, 20-minute, here's our product. So on January 23rd, I think was the date, Steve Burt hosted up at Masco for the vendors to come through. I was double booked that day, but Mark was able to be there, Sharice was able to be there. So we had representation from the elementary schools. The vendors went through all of the applications, and Crisis Go still emerged as a top elementary one. And then it seems as though Masco was also had a level of enthusiasm around Crisis Go as well. And we're not near a final decision yet. We still have some things to work out, but I get very excited by the fact that we may have a K-12 solution for this. I think that would just be very powerful for a number of reasons, just in terms of, again, keeping us tethered together as a K-12 sort of organization, because at the end of the day, they're all our kids. And so, Mark, anything you want to add about Crisis Go? Do you remember that particular app?
Yeah, I do. Well,
Great.
I think it stood out as a forerunner versus the other ones that we looked at.
Great.
There were several people there from Masco as well,
Yeah.
and it was unanimously approved, or not approved, but
Yeah.
appreciated
Move
it.
forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly. The attendance piece of it too, you said the reunification, but the attendance piece I thought was pretty strong.
Great.
And important.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
So our next steps are I reach back out to the vendor, ask them for references, school districts that are currently use them, that have used them for more than like 1 or 2 years. So we've asked for that. I've asked for a copy of the PD. Did he go through like a PowerPoint or a PDF that day? Like, did he present from a PowerPoint?
2 of the 3 were in person.
Okay.
And, yeah, there were PowerPoints and
Okay.
actual, they passed their phones around and were doing demos and pushed the button and the sirens went off and.
Okay. I think that was a key
Pretty
feature
cool.
about Crisis Go, that even if your phone is on vibrate, you'd still get an audible alert. They've somehow figured out the technology where you'd still get the beep, beep, beep.
They were the only ones that had figured out, we asked that specific question, if you're on silent, will you get an alert? And 2 of the 3 said, no, there's no way you can, similar to an Amber Alert.
Yeah.
Where even if you're on silent, everybody's goes off, or same with a weather alert. They were the only technology that could override that.
That's great.
And we saw it work.
So we'll get a copy of their PDF that they presented, we're looking for references, and we'll start to get some quotes to figure out, what the cost of this would be.
They
I think it'd be
had-
competitive if it's for K-12, certainly.
Sorry to interrupt. I thought they had something like 14,000 schools on board, where the other 2 that we looked at had hundreds or dozens.
Great.
It was really sort of far and away ahead of, although one of them had a little bit of a cleaner interface, but certainly didn't warrant the cost difference, and this other one was really a forerunner.
Are there, I'm sorry if you said this, are there local schools that are using this program?
We're waiting on references from that. We asked him to send us references
Oh,
of
I
local
thought you-
places.
okay,
Yeah, I mean,
gotcha.
we were specific around, local if they're available, if not.
Right.
Just 3 references, but
Okay.
the goal would definitely be local.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Scott,
Yes.
Scott, is that a licensing thing that we would be able to do across K through 12, or every site has to have a license?
Yeah, well, Mark, you might be able to answer that better than I
It
can.
was every school had to pay for their own.
Yeah.
Every
individual.
school would have their own, Christie.
So they would build a quote by town. Christie would be the way it would work, like Middleton would have a quote, Boxford would have a quote, Topsfield, and then Masco. And it sounds like the licensing would be by school or by town.
Yeah. And then there's an annual fee.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve. The other thing that I wanted to ask was, are we still looking at the piece where you put the ID, you put your license in as you come in the front door?
Yeah, that was Raptor.
Yeah.
I think that was Raptor, yes. We did have a webinar with them as well. That product has received good feedback as well. Steve Clifford, our Director of Facilities, one of his children, I think, attend St. John's or Bishop Fenwick, and they have it there. And
I saw it in use, that's why I brought it up. I saw it in use up at the Essex Tech.
okay, yes.
And
Yeah.
the only time there's an issue is during lunchtime, when they bring in the public to dine.
Yes.
They'll have a line out the door,
Yes.
people waiting. And it's really fast, but when you have 60 or 80 people coming through the door,
It slows things down.
Yeah, even in 10 seconds, and then print out and stick,
Yeah.
it was a little bit of a bottleneck.
So I think we are looking at that still. I think goal one right now is just to try to get this crisis go out in place ASAP, and then I think that would be sort of a phase 2. And I'd be interested to see, like, does crisis go ultimately develop something like that? Because it'd be great to have one whole product do everything. So that'd be a question we can ask John when I reconnect with him, John Walsh, the vendor.
Yeah, I agree.
And this is for 2019, 2020 budget?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope,
Great.
this is not, early indications are it's not going to be a huge budget. I think, like, the numbers I saw were, I want to say like $4,400 K to 12.
Really?
Like, so, take out Masco, take out Topsfield, and
Yeah,
now,
with a little bit more for the components and then
Okay.
the licensing and then the ongoing, but it wasn't drastically
Huge.
expensive.
Okay.
Okay.
Another thing, just, and I don't know where this fits into all of it, but at some of the schools, like after hours, getting into the schools can be challenging. I know in Topsfield, sports, things like that, we try to get in. And Hal Manning too. So I didn't know is there something we can build in? And, I mean, it's a security situation,
Yeah.
that's why we're doing it. But you've got parents, there's no one there to open the door for you. So
Right.
you're standing out there until, I don't know, a parent comes out to let you in. I don't know if anyone has ever complained about that, or if you guys have heard anything about that.
You guys ever got any feedback on that?
Well, on an evening, like tonight, we're supposed to have a senior citizen by the door, and we don't.
Right.
So the door is just unlocked.
Yeah, but
Right.
it's never unlocked. Well, I shouldn't say never.
At how
On
many?
Thursdays, it is
Proctor
never
was always
unlocked
tough.
on
Proctor was
Proctor.
tough to get into
Well,
basketball.
that is directly from the chief of police, does not want the doors just unlocked.
I'm just wondering if, as like, if there's some way, some system we could
I think it would be.
do or think about.
I
to-
believe at the times when it's worked somewhat smoothly, because I think it is an issue, but one of the examples I've received is that sometimes the coaches will tell the whole entire team to meet specifically by the door at this time so they can all get in one collective group.
Right.
Rather than the whole straggler effect.
Yeah.
So I think that helps, but otherwise there is a lot of, you can hear the dinging and the dinging and the
Yeah.
dinging because there's no one there at the door and the door can't be unlocked.
Right, and one of our coaches has been designated as like the one who takes the text. So if we're running late, we reach out to him. So we've come up with a system, but I do like your idea. If there would be a way, it would certainly help with flow. And then the door could stay locked, like even here, could be locked.
How would you get in?
If you had like a key code, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know. I know at the preschool, we download an app and it has a SKU, or what?
QR code.
Yeah, QR code. And you hold it up to the iPad and it allows you to get through the door. It unlocks the door. I don't know enough about how these systems work, but it may just be worth asking for like best practices. How do they set them up with other schools? Because
Yeah.
it's a pain.
It is,
I get it.
for a reason.
Oh,
You know what I
totally.
mean?
Yeah, no,
Right.
I'm not like suggesting.
That's the sort of balance of like,
Right.
Yes, it's annoying, right? I totally get that part of it, but then the other part is, someone gets in and decides to wait in the school till tomorrow morning. and-
Totally.
You know what I mean? Your head can go to those sort of places as well that you don't want to even think about, but.
But they're getting in anyways.
Yeah.
I think that's the point.
That's a good point.
Because there's
Sure.
there's fourth graders letting us in.
Right.
So it's not like it's stopping.
Yeah. Yeah. I can talk to Steve Clifford to see if there's any
Yeah.
sort of solutions out there in the facilities world that,
Yeah.
QR code app thing or,
I think
power goes out, how do you manage that? But it's worthy of a conversation.
It's probably an expensive answer is to have cameras and have it monitored and have somebody releasing the door electronically from a center, centralized dispatch center that's letting people in and out, but it's expensive technology.
But how would
That's
they
what-
know either? You just.
Well, yeah. That's the stuff Dan Michaud was working on when he was here,
Yeah,
suggesting, but I think it was pretty expensive
right.
technology.
I can look into it, Kristen, just to see, like you say, best practices, what's out there, what are other
Yeah.
towns doing. It's worthy of a conversation, certainly.
Because I really don't think it's
Did you see
prohibiting
that?
Yeah.
riffraff. Because it's young children, it's not a responsible adult
Yeah.
necessarily opening the door.
Saying why, what's your reason for being here? or-
So-
Yeah.
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 Touch that. It says
Okay.
you should-
Okay.
Yeah, we'll look into
Great,
it.
Seconds
thank
to
you.
just,
Oh, Stop the Bleed,
Stop the
sorry.
Bleed.
Bullet number 2. So Stop the Bleed program is a program that we have done. Have you guys completed training in both schools? Fuller Meadow?
We have ours scheduled to come up maybe in March or April.
Okay. So what has been learned from a lot of these horrific experiences is that tourniquets would have made a huge difference in any of these school shooting situations. And having people understand how to apply a tourniquet, how to use a tourniquet. And so the Stop the Bleed program is something that has come out of the fire departments of all 3 towns. We talked about it this summer in our back-to-school meetings. And so we have been conducting trainings across the 6 schools where either someone local or someone regional will come in and lead the staff in a training on how to apply a tourniquet and use a tourniquet in the event that there ever was a situation that, it could be a playground situation even, and someone fell or, and was bleeding profusely. But it's just training staff on another preventative measure to help in life-saving situations. So the way this is working is Jen Collins Brown, who is the fire chief in Topsfield. She has some connections to the Stop the Bleed program. And so what we started to do, and Matt's done this, and I'll have Matt jump in here in a minute, with the nurses across all 3 towns, developing kits that we can build in our schools. Steve Greenberg recently had a conversation with Jen so we can start to get these built and distributed to schools that would contain gauze and tape and a tourniquet and all the different things that you would need, and we'd have them sort of strategically placed around the building, much like an AED device that you oftentimes see in buildings. But Matt, you want to jump in with a little bit more detail around the kits?
Yeah, that's really the crux of it, though. The specific types of materials. So the gauze is like a high absorbing. It's a very specific gauze that they put in it. The tourniquet's obviously one of the key components. We had a lot of conversations about the kit itself and whether or not what's essential to be in that kit for the Stop the Bleed program, and then what other things could be in there for not convenience, but that could help going forward. So we kind of built them, or started the conversation about building them with the essential components. And then if we have other pieces, that's good to have in there, but they're not, we wanted to make sure we have the essential components. And then obviously putting them in a package or a container that's easily accessible and easily seen, right? So red with some wording on it, whether we call it Stop the Bleed kit or something else. And then the location of them has been a big part of the conversation, whether we put them near exit doors or right where the AEDs are or other locations, and just making sure that everybody's trained on how to use it as well. The Topsfield Fire Chief has been incredibly helpful, and they're actually donating a ton of the tourniquets. That was part of it. She already had a lot of the tourniquets that we could add to the kits, so it's a great program. It's great to have around.
Did you end up connecting with Jen?
I spoke with her yesterday, so just needed to send me the information of what to
So
take.
those should be deployed, I think, relatively soon.
Yeah.
You guys do a day where everyone's making the kit, or is it just happening at the local schools?
I think it's going to happen at the local schools.
Okay. Get the supplies, put them together.
Right,
and-
put it all, yeah.
Great. Perfect. So all, productive updates from the safety cabinet team.
Great. Thank you for staying on that committee. Mark's going on year 6.5 on the safety committee.
Progress.
Yeah, thank you to you, Scott.
Sure.
Okay, report of the Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations, Mr. Greenberg.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, starting with the financial report for the month of January, included in your drive emailed out a few days ago. Nothing extraordinary at this point in time. As I communicated in the email, we're going to continue to watch special education, out-of-district costs, special ed transportation, and some in-district salaries. Global Child, that discussion still continuing, if I'm not mistaken. We're still working out that piece, so we're just watching it. Not that it's like a mission critical as far as the budget is concerned, just watching it because that's just one of those things that we should keep an eye on. And today there's, we're just moving along. No one has really, I think, volunteered or signed up for the bus monitor pilot at this time.
Correct.
I believe. So, okay, standing by to stand by with that. And let me see, as we move into March, I think we want to really start concentrating on the forecasting portion of this. So allow the committee any flexibility if needed for any of the other things that the committee has discussed throughout the course of this year and or last year. So I will stop at this point and answer any questions that you may have about the financial report for January. Hearing none. Moving into the food service report. Food service report is for the month of December, waiting for the January invoices. As soon as I get those, we'll update the report and communicate it out. For the month of December, we sold, I believe, 37 less lunches in the month of December. When I looked at the days, I think we are 1 day short in this fiscal year. Could be wrong. But I thought when I was looking at the DESI report, the number of days for lunches, I think we're 1 day short in this fiscal year. Either way, moving on, looking at receipts and expenses for the month of December.
I'm sorry, what do you mean we're 1 day short?
In other words, in FY 18, let's say we had 14 days of days where they were serving lunch in the month of December. And in this fiscal year, it could have been 13.
Oh, I see.
So
Okay.
1 day can make an impact.
Right.
But, you know, I'll just double check that I say that, but there was one of them like, ooh, we're off a day. And the other thing too, as we go into January, we did some modifications to the menu. So we will see how that impacts participation. Will I be able to quantify it? I don't know if we'd have to dig in day by day. I think we'll have to look at the whole thing in terms of the number of meals sold and then go from there. Not that that's a be-all, end-all, or it changes anything, but it's a piece of information for the committee.
What are the high-level modifications?
Well, I think it was putting in,
I saw some different
yeah, like
vegetables.
just, and turkey sandwiches, I think they put that back in.
Parfait, crudité, different
Yeah.
options.
Just some fine tuning in the menu, after some further discussions. So we'll see how that's working.
And the pizza, are they gonna be modifying the pizza?
We talked about the pizza.
Okay.
And I think once the other piece of that too, we definitely had a deeper discussion about that.
About the pizza, yeah.
But once we get the Fuller Meadow Kitchen done, that'll be a big help.
Okay.
So February vacation is the game plan for that, to have the wires, have the steam table rewired and the new equipment put in. The next thing I'm gonna investigate, and I'm about to blindside Dr. Carrero with this, is possibly putting in a dishwasher where the desks and the cabinets are. There used to be a dishwasher in there years and years and years ago. So I'm gonna investigate that. I'm not gonna say that that's, oh, we're gonna do that this year, but something to bring back to the committee, maybe in FY 20 for consideration, because it will probably be relatively, it will be expensive for infrastructure and hardware. But as far as being green or trays for attractive presentation, it is a better way to go than the trays that we've got. So that's that part of the food service report. As far as the financial end, we're still in the positive. So to date, we're in the positive, $1,348 compared to December of FY 18, $5,284.92 in negative. So we're just gonna keep an eye on it. Year's not over yet. We're, still taking feedback, trying to fine tune the program. But we have to be cautious of what we do, or do it eyes wide open. Because again, my perspective is balance, and solvency to me is important. And unless there are any specific questions, feedback?
No, I just have a comment. I had lunch in the cafeteria at Fuller Meadow in January with a member of the Health and Wellness Committee. We dined on chicken nuggets, and the food was good. I mean, it's cafeteria food, I don't think we're expecting, gourmet. It's chicken nuggets. So the soup was delicious, actually. The tomato soup was very good. It had no cream. And French fries, salad. There was multiple choices the whole way through. So, and the kids, they all got through it. There was a lot of kids getting it. It's a popular item. So it was good.
Yeah, and I know, Steve, this will be sort of like baseline data year, because this is the sort of year one, right?
With the new contract, yeah.
Yeah, so as I look at that food service report for Middleton, I look at 18 to 19, right, for the top participation. So in September, there were about 800 more meals sold. Is that the correct way to read that? There were 4,000.
That is correct.
And there were
Yes.
4,800?
Yes.
So then in October, there were about 1,400 more meals served. And then in November, there were about 500 more meals sold, and then December, roughly the same.
Mhm.
So it'd be interesting to see, once we get through a whole year, was there something particular about the October menu that you know, they become all data points for us in terms of, because 1,400 more is like, gee, what was offered in October that really got the attention
Right,
of
and it
of the
does, you know what it
kids.
is, it's like, it also, with the kids, the customer.
Sure.
They start, their taste change or whatever.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not doing this justice, but then there's other factors that play into participation.
Sure.
Whether they do or not, but absolutely agree with you.
It's just all good baseline data, and then on the bottom, so last year at this time, we were $5,200 in the hole, and this year, right now, we're $1,300.
Positive,
The
and this
positive.
is all based on the financials, the invoices that we get monthly. I literally take, for the bottom part, I literally take that information right from their invoices.
Yeah.
The top part, I go to DESI's website, because they have to submit their reports to DESI for the claims for reimbursement. So I literally go into there and take those reports to get the data about the participation or the number of meals sold. And that is just meals sold, has nothing to do with à la carte on the top part, but the bottom part does have everything. It does include à la carte. It will include, I do believe the catering is on different invoices, because that cannot be part. You know, so when we say catering, that's a before and after school program or anything like that. But à la carte is part of the revenue stream on the bottom part of this report.
Has there been any other feedback, parental involvement, feedback?
I have not, personally.
Steve and I are continuing to meet with 2 members of the Health and Wellness Committee, just to keep ongoing dialogue and conversation open.
Do you think there are external factors that are causing the increase? People are busier, you know, life changes or?
Yeah, I think it's, like
Can't
Steve
dis-
said, it's probably a
can't discount
myriad
it.
of,
Can't
all of it.
It's all a valid point.
Yeah.
But it's certainly trending in the right direction.
Totally.
Compared to where it was.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good.
I have a question. Is it possible to put the full year projections for 2018?
What we did for 2018?
Yeah.
Absolutely, just wanted, you know, didn't want to distract you guys, just keep it all as it goes, but yes, definitely can pull that all in there.
Thank you.
Yep.
This is helpful. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. And that is my report, unless there's anything else.
I don't think so.
Thank you.
And then, Amy,
Okay.
before new business, I know
Yes.
it's not on here, but maybe grab a quick update from the principals.
Oh,
That's-
yes.
Works out on your end, okay?
Absolutely.
Great.
So we had our data meetings in mid-January, so that was a great opportunity to get together and talk about student progress and reconfigure our TI groups and things like that. We also had Tasty Tuesday in January, in which the students tried kale chips, and they were actually really good. And then I believe they were on the menu for today. I don't know if they were on the
They were, I
menu,
saw them.
Yeah.
but I popped in the cafeteria today and I saw them on someone's tray, so I don't remember if they were on the menu.
They were.
We also had our January Professional Development Day on the 18th in January, in which we, the day was surrounding our three platforms. So we had one school that was all about inclusionary practices, one about innovative teaching, one school for social emotional learning. And I just want to give major kudos to the Fuller Meadow staff, because we had probably 6 or 7 staff members from Fuller Meadow actually teaching sessions. So that was really exciting to see so many of our staff leading the learning. We also had, this came out of the Wellness Committee as well, Barbara DiGirolamo, she's an injury prevention program coordinator from Boston Children's Hospital, came to Teen Time last week and spoke to our students about the Think First program, which is really all about safety. It's really about head and neck safety, wearing your helmets when you're riding a bike or during snow season, skiing, skating, sledding. I think everyone in the room learned something new, especially me, and Lily Carrero was not happy when I got home. Because they're supposed to be wearing their helmets a lot more, and they're not supposed to be in the front seat till they're 13. Who knew that? That's a law. Anyway, just so you know that.
I didn't know that. She's coming later
Yeah.
in February to help me.
She was great. It was a lot. She's actually doing a program in March for parents as well. So that will be, I think, a great program. And thank you to Amanda Libby and Jean Bentley, who have spearheaded that whole program, the whole committee, and the parent education piece to that too. So kindergarten has had a couple of enrichment programs sponsored by the PTO. They had the Discovery Museum in January, and then today they had science tellers come, which was very enjoyable. We also had another professional development day on Monday, which was UDL, which we had, which was school-based, which I think the staff got a lot out of.
What's UDL?
Universal Design for Learning, so it's really sorry, I shouldn't have used that buzzword, but it's really how teachers are planning to meet the needs of everyone in the classroom. And then thinking about like that end outcome and then working backwards. Yesterday was the 100th day of school, so that's always exciting here at Fuller Meadow. Today was Global School Play Day, so there was sort of a constant buzz throughout the school all day. I was going to talk about Stop the Bleed. That was really interesting as well, and I actually had a staff member who actually had to use it the following day on a family member. So, so we actually put it out there. We offered it to the IAs to come. Anyone who wanted to come was able to come to that.
A tourniquet?
Not a tourniquet, but pressure and stopping bleeding. Not it wasn't a
Tapping
tourniquet.
and-
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And then one thing I wanted to just mention, I don't want to embarrass them, but they are here. So I did have some staff members who wrote CPAC grants and were awarded them. So one of them was Louise Kennedy, who wrote a CPAC grant for Storyboard That, which is a digital storytelling online platform for grade 2, which is already up and running and being used. And the other one was Alex Thompson and Amanda Libby, who they wrote a grant and are creating movable sensory paths one for each wing, so one for the lower wing, one for the upper wing, so that the students can take a sensory break or a motor break throughout their day if necessary. So that's in the works. It's pretty cool. Yeah. So I'm very proud of all three of them for writing the grants and for just, figuring out outside the box ideas for students to meet their needs. Good job, ladies.
Does the grant go for, like, how long of a period do you have to create it?
We're finalizing that right now, so we're submitting paperwork by Friday this week. So expect that we soon have it.
Our goal is to have it done by spring, hopefully up and running, so that's our.
They were allotted an amount of money, so
Yeah.
it's not, I don't think that will go away. No.
Okay.
And just, I got a chance to sit in on the conversation about those grants, and it was very competitive, so that, it wasn't just everybody got the grant. It was a very competitive process, so congratulations.
Great, good job. So that's it. Any questions at Fuller Meadow?
No, but I have a request for the, for the next early, late arrival day.
The late opening day?
Late opening day. So I received a lot of comments, including my own kid, like no one knew what time the buses were coming. So it was obvious I think you were really clear, like 2.5 hours is the start time. So we're all counting backwards and driving through the neighborhood. People were out at their bus stops for a half hour, some missed it. I think the line at some of the schools was crazy. So when you send out the next announcement, would you add like whatever the rule of thumb would be? I don't think it's an
Yeah,
exact.
it's not actually 2.5 hours. It's really two
like
and three-quarter
2, 4, yeah.
hours.
Okay. Would you mind just putting that in and saying like the buses will start at this time, so then parents can do their own math, but at least.
I think, actually, Mr. Greenberg, I was gonna talk to the other principals first, but I think that we need to connect with the bus company, actually, because I don't think that was consistent. I think some people, there was one bus that actually had to do the run twice, because there were kids that were, and I think that some buses that usually take 45 minutes to do the run, at that time of day doesn't take 45 minutes because the traffic is it's not bad at that time. So I
Right.
think that we need to communicate with the bus I think we need to do two things. One, for this year, communicate with the bus company to make sure that this is better for March. And then for next year, I think we need to make it like a solid period of time, like 2.5 hours or 3 hours, but 2 3/4 hours puts everyone right over the edge. I
think you're right.
Just think the math is too tricky.
We spent a lot of time trying to figure out the
Yeah,
math
and
in
ours,
the car.
yeah, we missed
did
it,
not
or
work.
it never came, driving.
Amy, to touch on that, there was also an issue with the bus company. One day, we had some weather or something. And I know they sent out an email, or someone sent out an email, but a lot of people don't check their emails first thing in the morning. So a
Yeah,
lot
that
of-
was unrelated, but
Right.
yes,
So a lot of people were upset.
right.
So a Blackboard Connect or something?
Yeah,
would be
something,
better?
maybe like, I mean,
That wasn't sent
no,
out
I
at
know,
the
I'm
school
just,
level.
just touching on that.
That-
Maybe something with, the smartphones or, maybe like a no school announcement type thing.
Yeah. Like a call as opposed to an email, Freddie.
We got a
Yeah.
call,
You got a call.
You did?
yeah, from Steve Greenberg,
Right.
about the buses being delayed on that snow day, at the icy day.
You personally?
Oh,
Yeah.
you were just calling me?
Yeah,
No,
Steve, you
it
did
was
put out
a-
a message that day.
You did.
I'm
put
having
out-
a moment.
Well, I got it.
I got a message from
But-
Steve.
Blackboard, if you can just go to Blackboard, we're sitting here and look
What-
and
what
see,
kind of
I'm pretty
message?
sure.
I'm sorry?
What kind of message?
It was like, so our bus comes at 7:55, and we were running late to the bus, which that worked out well. So I probably got it at 7:50.
Text, email?
Call.
Oh, a call,
Oh, you did? I didn't get a call. I got email.
right.
Yeah, and then the email came
Yeah,
as well.
no, I know you're talking
But I
about
got a
a
call.
lot of calls.
So you did send a call that day, right?
Let me just wait, 'cause then-
However, I mean, it was like anticipated longer, but we were out there for like a good half hour. And I was late to the bus stop. The people before, the rest of my stop had been there already for like a good
Oh, I know what
15
day
minutes.
that was.
Yeah,
I can
that
tell you
It was
exactly what
that
day
ice
that
day.
was.
Error.
What
January
happened that day,
30th?
Freddie, was,
It was
you're
a
putting
Mon-
you're putting it back
Monday.
in my head now.
Yeah, there was a,
The bus company, and they were, apologized profusely. They were looking at old information. They thought Masco had called a delay, sent the bus drivers home. Kevin called me at 6 that morning, like, holy smokes, they sent the bus driver, their bus run started at 6:30.
Yeah.
So now they're calling the cavalry back in to get bus drivers back in to do the routes. So Masco was off. So if Masco's off, that's gonna put us off. We started to get calls that, the Masco runs were running late, and that's when I think Steve sent out a message to families that, I think Masco had buses that were upwards of an hour late that day. I think our longest late bus, they did kind of do some catch-up, was like maybe 35 minutes. I think Stewart was the one that when I sent the text to the principal saying, is everybody in? And, I think Carol up at Stewart was the last one to respond, saying my final one just arrived. And that was about 35 minutes later than it normally did. But that was it was a slippery morning, you are correct there. And the bus company accidentally thought that Masco had called and we had called a 2-hour delay, and that wasn't the case. So,
January 30th.
yeah, it just sort of threw the whole thing off. Was it a call, Steve, and an email, or just an
Yes.
email?
Just call and an email.
Okay. So, so you're saying you didn't get a call?
I didn't get a call.
Yeah.
You gotta
So,
see if he's on there, but it was 92% for the calls and 95% for the emails. So 2,212 calls went out, and 2,999 emails went out.
so there was an 8%, looks like, if it was a 92% call success rate,
Yeah.
8% didn't get through. And what was the percentage on the email?
95.
Yeah, so.
what's
yeah.
that mean? It just didn't, somebody didn't
I
answer?
don't
or how
want Steve
did
to
it-
have my number
how did
anyway.
it didn't get through?
They probably called.
Maybe it went to-
Yeah, Marlene.
Oh, numbers.
Yeah.
I got you.
So this
We're
was-
gonna move away from Blackboard Connect. We didn't wanna do it this year. I was like, no, let's get through the winter before we start doing anything like that. And School Brains has that same sort of messenger feature. And we're going to actually open School Brains up so parents can log in. And you can see like, here's the email address I have in here, here's the phone number I have in here. So parents will be able to log into their account to
Right.
make sure, instead of just trying to disperse that work, because for one secretary to manage, 500 families, or it becomes overwhelming. So we're gonna open up that portal so people are able to go in, check their name, check their address, check their phone number, check their email, edit it anytime they want to edit it. You get a new cell phone, go ahead and put your new cell phone number in. And I think we'll have higher success rates because we collect all this data at the beginning of the year, and then we start sending messages, but people's emails change or phone numbers change, and you get the bounce backs and so on and so forth. But I do remember the day now that you said it, it was a, yeah.
Right.
Fun-
It was
a cold,
unrelated
miserable
It
morning.
was a fun morning.
Yeah.
It was a fun
I bet.
morning. Yeah.
Happy Monday.
Yes, yes, yes.
But those are great. Those are great ideas if you could,
I'll connect with Mr.
suggested. Thank you. Okay. Anything else for Diane Fuller Meadow? No? Okay, thank you.
We did all our winter screenings as well, and we held our mid-year data meetings. And one of the things that's now a standing part is we've always looked at their math progress and performance and put intervention groups together for that, likewise for English language arts. But our big focus this year has been adding a social emotional learning component to that. So now our meeting's really broken into 3 parts, where we're looking at our math data, we're looking at our ELA data, and we're looking at our SEL data, and we're actually now at the point where we're starting SEL intervention groups on top of all other supports that students get. That's based on a data sheet that teachers are filling out on all of their students. So that is up and underway, and those groups have just taken place. They're all framed around those competencies. So there's like a 5th grade growth mindset group, there's a 3rd grade self-management group. They're all gonna run 6 to 8 weeks, and then at that time, the counselors are gonna reevaluate if they're gonna continue with those students or take the next list of students that teachers are recommending for them. So it's neat to see that that's officially built into our process and going.
Now, is that happening during wind time? Or?
Not necessarily. So it could be. So most intervention groups all happen during wind time, but it's based on the counselor section. So we're running some other things during certain winds. So sometimes it happens during another block of time. And some of the groups are multi-age. So it could be like a 3rd, 4th grade group. So it could happen to be 3rd grade's wind time, but that's not what the 4th grade wind time is. So it's a little bit of both.
That's great.
Yeah, yeah. So we're very excited about that. And the counselors worked really hard to make that work. The PBL stuff, there's a lot of small PBL stuff that's going around across the building, which is really exciting. I know we just got that wonderful presentation by the 6th grade team. Some of the things you really didn't get to take in and see, which was pretty amazing, is they talked about how they all built websites. The websites were phenomenal. So they're all 6 to 7 different pages. It's all about the different way that the Mayan civilizations were organized, the different cultures, different structures that were taken in place. But the driving question that they presented was, how did Mayan civilization influence the world that we live in today? What are the different aspects that are in our society today that we kind of adopted from them? And every single page of the website was aimed at answering that question. So you could look at government structures of Maya civilization and then compare it to the government structures that we have today, money systems, economy, different social classes, different entertainment, the sports, and a lot of the kids you saw in that little video were talking about the game of soccer and game of basketball kind of formed out of an ancient Mayan game. So the students did this great job of actually tailoring everything on that website to make sure it was answering that higher order thinking question. And then what we got to do, Diane was a part of this, I got to do it, Christine Elliott, Jeff Bryson, they brought us in small panels, and they got to do that midpoint check-in where they presented what they had to us, and we could give direct feedback as to where they had to go with things. So really good learning and a lot of feedback for those kids along the way. 5th grade, as they said, is in the planning phases of a pretty aggressive one too, which is going to be on the Bill of Rights. And the presentation that the students will be doing is that they'll actually be engaging in debates on it. So they're going to learn sort of the civilized and manner way of arguing different points of view as they discuss the Bill of Rights and their agreement and disagreement of them. So we're looking forward to that one to come. We had Geo Day. It was delicious. It was sausage, kale, and I think rice, or sausage, kale, and beans. It was very good. Ben Franklin came to present to grade 3. He actually dresses as Ben Franklin and reenacts what his work and contributions were. In the month of January into February, we had 3 team time assemblies for each grade level. First one was electrical safety, which we do every year by Ray Gooley. The second one was our behavior counselors ran one on de-stressing techniques for all students so that they could be reminded of ways to keep themselves kind of calm and relaxed in tense situations throughout the school day. And the one that's going on right now is the 4 competencies that we identified that we were going to teach as a tri-town. We've kind of rolled them out systematically throughout the year, so now we're rolling out social awareness, which is the 3rd one to kind of integrate into the mix of things. Diane mentioned the professional development day that we had on January 18th. where there was a lot of different social emotional learning being taught throughout the Tri-Town. A lot of teachers who had, I think from Boxford, who had gone to Design 39 in San Diego were presenting some of that stuff. So the first half of the day was teachers getting to go to all these different classes, which were run by Tri-Town teachers, which was excellent. But the second half of the day was them being able to take what they learned and put it into actionable steps back in their buildings. Just great work done by the Hal Manning teachers. There were a lot of classrooms that were literally physically broken down that day and then completely rebuilt to kind of replicate what they learned about what a Design 39 classroom should look like. So a lot of reconfiguring, rearranging of furniture, and what the learning spaces inside a room look like. So it was great to see that really fast turnaround and that excitement. A lot of great social and emotional learning tools going up on the walls that are all focused around the competencies that we're teaching. So a lot of great things done out of that. We also went through the exact same UDL training that Diane was mentioning. Mary Poppins is the 5th and 6th grade musical this year. Rehearsal is well underway at this point, and they'll be rehearsing for the next couple of months, but it's looking good. I get to have a sneak peek every so often, and it's coming along. It's amazing to see the finished product when they actually do perform, and just being able to have all these little data points along the way about what the practices look like, because just the way the whole thing grows and comes together, it's pretty spectacular.
And we made some adjustments, right? We put in mics, or we did something to the
The whole
music.
lighting,
Yeah.
so the stage has really been enhanced, so it's got
Okay.
enhanced lighting structures, which enables them to do a lot of different things, just in terms of special effects and in terms of not drowning out different kids in different parts of the stage.
Great.
Yeah, so those upgrades have been wonderful. And then similar, Diane kind of said that Fuller Meadow just got to have a few special assemblies. They are, the Stop the Bleed and the Think First are both coming to Hal Manning in late February and in March. And that's everything I have.
The thing I would add to that is James came and spoke to the Middleton Board of Trade a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Roughly.
Yeah.
Really well received, did a great job, and very informative. The crowd was a little smaller than usual because there was a conflict with the FinCom, I think, that night, but it was a great presentation, and it was really got great feedback while he was there and after he left.
Oh, that's great. What did you talk about?
The direction of where we're going as a school system. A lot about our 3 platforms, about the social emotional learning, about the PBL, and about the inclusive practices. And then we kind of got into how it actually looks inside the building. What does that mean inside the classroom? And the steps that we've taken so far, and what the next sequence of steps is going to be. So we just kind of talked about how the learning experience used to look, and now how the learning experience looks right now, and where we want the learning experience to be.
That's great.
It was really eye-opening. Some of the members, realtors and other people that work there, that have businesses in town, used to be school teachers at some point, and the stories that they told compared to the way things are now were just, really far apart, and they were really impressed with where we're going. And actually, we brought up Dr. Daggett and where we're getting a lot of this information and where it's coming from. So it was really, I would say if there were more opportunities, there are more opportunities, but I think we should consider utilizing that, just because it really keeps the towns, businesses, and the schools working together, and sort of open communication and where we're all headed, working together as a community.
I would add to that, I even got follow-up emails from some of the people who were there that night that had just kind of ongoing questions about some of the stuff that we've been talking about, just more curiosity about what that really means and what it looks like. So it was genuine, the interest level.
There were. It was really intriguing and sort of just really eye-opening at an intimate level. We talk about it in a town meeting, we get there, and this is what we're doing as a high level, but this was literally one-on-one. People were asking questions. Well, where did you come up with those? How did you come up with this idea? And really, where's that coming from? So it was really good. I think it was a really positive, and besides the fact that James was a really good speaker there, I think it was really good for the community and for our relationship with them.
That's great. Sounds very impactful.
Yeah, I agree. Great words. Yeah.
Appreciate it. I was invited.
Yeah. Glad you came.
Anything else? All right, new business.
All right, so we'll just touch upon, we'll get into operating and capital and some further thoughts and discussions that have happened since that time. We have draft calendar in here as well. But Steve touched upon this earlier, our best laid plans of mice and men is that quote, I think. So a bus monitor, you guys have rolled the bushes. Would that be a fair statement, like multiple times?
Yeah.
They have unearthed every stone and had a number of conversations with people, and I think the general feedback is thank you, but not interested.
Correct.
Yeah. So we're sort of a little bit back to square one. You know, I'm open to suggestions, obviously, if folks have thoughts on how we could maybe look to, you know, we wanted to do it as like a data point and try it for a month and see, like, you know, have situations on the bus changed or whatever the case may be, and we're just finding it to be an awfully hard position to fill because it's pretty random times.
Senior center, retirees.
Do we ever invite the bus drivers into any of our learning opportunities? Like if there's a mental health 101 or like something that maybe part of the aid training might be an avenue, because some of the bus drivers don't have, I don't think any of them, truly, like it's not a requirement to drive a bus that you have to have experience.
Child development degree or
Right,
something.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, do we do, I know that you guys meet with them in the beginning of the year, but is there any kind of orientation process around managing behaviors or the expectations or anything like that?
That's a fair point. I don't.
We have several years ago, probably maybe 5 or 6 years ago, we did a program, I can't remember what it's called, but it was a training program. It was a lot of coordinating.
Is that when you had breakfast for everybody?
Nope, that was another time. That was when Dr. Creedon decided to have them trained in Olveus.
Okay.
The Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Oh. Okay.
So that went over really well. Timing is everything. So I don't think we've done it in some time.
Do you recall, I know it's going back a ways, but do you recall a change in conditions?
So we didn't do it with all of the buses. We did it, I think, with one bus. And the bus driver at that time that we did it with was an amazing bus driver. So she was on board with that whole building community on the bus and all of that. So,
Would you think about that as an option? To, if, you know, like a cross-training, not to do a separate thing, but if you're training a group, and this is a group that might also benefit, could we open it up to them?
we certainly think we could open it up to them. I don't think we could oblige them right now with the current contract that we are in.
Okay.
To mandate that they come.
Okay.
Now, if that's something that the committee would like to consider for the next bus contract, then that would be up between the committee and Mr. Greenberg and the bus company.
Okay.
They have such a hard time getting and retaining any help. I don't see that working.
Yeah, but if,
to be blunt.
because it sounds it sounds like the reporting numbers are down, but anecdotal numbers are up, and I don't know about this month, but overall, so we have a mismatch, so we want to fill that gap, and if we can't do it through a bus monitor, like, how else are we going to close that gap so that kids are coming to school with less stress and buses are working?
I don't want to, I think we've identified there's a couple of less than 5 buses, or maybe 2 buses that we've identified as being challenging. I know for one of those, the bus driver changes every year and is not necessarily consistent. And so this has been, in my experience, the worst year we've ever had, with a lot of complaints, with a new bus driver. I don't know, I mean, the pilot, it's so disappointing to the folks that I interact with, and the children on the bus. It's so disappointing that this bus monitor's not here, and we're continuing to see lots of problems on our bus. Perhaps and I don't want to, everyone in town will hate me, but maybe you swap, take one of a bus driver that's been effective, in controlling the students, and has had a period of success over time. Perhaps maybe having them swap to our, the buses that are having challenges. I don't know how that all works, but it could be a matter of the person driving the bus. And, you know, the ability to maintain control of that bus.
Yeah, there's, I think, a lot of factors, right? I think there's that way into when situations emerge. I guess, Steve, I would ask you from a contractual perspective, does NRT do any sort of ongoing training, or is it just sort of safety training, and here's how you drive a bus, and here's how you make a left-hand turn, right-hand turn, and
No, they have training
maintain
throughout
safe travel?
You know, they have training throughout the course of the year, and it's also the big thing in their startup.
Yeah.
As you know, we've gone and spoke at each
Yeah.
of their startups annually. So I think it's continual. Of course, when it gets busy through the course of the year, they do have their staff meetings, I know that, and,
But do they do formal, like Amy's saying, like, we do formal training for our staff, and wouldn't it be great if we could invite the bus company? But Diane's point is well taken. I don't think we can mandate anyone from the bus company
well,
coming.
there's language in the contract about, formal meetings with the drivers, and I think we have it I think it's 2 times.
I don't mean us necessarily. I mean, does
No,
like
that's-
NRT do, hey, let's bring in Bill Daggett of the bus world?
I don't know if they do, what in particular they do. I think they have formal training. I don't know if they have, guest speakers come.
But like a behavior management or.
So
Yeah, I'll stop it. I think they have formal training,
I mean, if we think about it, like, it's an epidemic here, it's an epidemic in our community. The, mental health world is slammed,
Yeah.
right?
They
So
bid
it
on
has
routes?
to affect them on the buses
They
too.
bid
It's
on
not
routes?
necessarily,
Clarify epidemic. No, you're saying mental health.
I think mental health
They
has
could go
grown
anywhere.
so much.
But they go where I
that
can-
It's starting younger, and we're seeing more and more challenges, so it's not anything that the school's doing, it's not anything that necessarily is happening in one environment, it's a culmination of everything. So,
Yeah, so one of the things, just to throw this out there, is that if we want to talk about some sort of training, and obviously we'd have to talk to the company about this, but one of the things that I'm proposing for next year as a training module for the paraprofessionals is a whole series of trainings that focus on their online trainings with then follow-ups. So they're about a 3 to 4 hour module that was developed by a collaborative specifically for this type of rollout that, again, targeted for paraprofessionals, but the topics include, one of the modules is managing challenging behavior, and another one is social emotional learning and supports. We're doing it in Boxford this year for all the paraprofessionals. We actually talked in Boxford about having it roll out to like recess monitors and lunch monitors and possibly the bus drivers, just because it is a formalized training that sets the stage that anybody can do at any point because it's on the computer. So there are tidbits going on. There are types of programs that even if we couldn't get them to come in to do our trainings, right? Because our BCBAs and our behavior specialists actually do a really great, they have a training as well that they've done for staff, but even if we can't have them come in for it, if it's something we can work with the bus company, when you buy this product, you spend, it basically is either 50 licenses and above to as many as you want, or 50 and under, and the difference is so marginal that even for Boxford, I bought the 50 plus, so you can roll it out to as many people as you want. And again, they're not going to do, it doesn't include examples while you're driving the bus, like this is how you do it, but it's overall behavior management strategies that can definitely be used across settings. So just something to throw out there that is proposed for our, to purchase for next year for our staff, that we could easily roll out, to other entities.
great.
They may appreciate that. They may see it as a benefit to their employees.
Yeah, it's adding a skill set.
It wouldn't hurt.
No, absolutely. Steve, can you, not now, but just, obviously connect with Cindy, find out what their training sort of mechanisms are there?
This would be a Kim Prizzuti or John McCarthy.
Okay, so Kim or
You
John.
want
then.
you want an effective impact, that's what you want.
Okay, so maybe, you and I can set up a phone call with John and find out, like, what is their level of training that they do? Are they open to something happening this year, so we can try to get some training in? Matt's talking about something for next year, but is there something we can do between February and June? And maybe we can pilot it on just a couple of buses to begin with, if we can't get everybody in. Mark, you mentioned the idea of seniors. I mean, I think it's certainly an option that we can look at. We can kind of reach out to our senior population in town. You know, oftentimes you find retired nurses and retired teachers and retired this and retired that who might be willing to serve in that role and in that capacity. So that's certainly another group that I'd be happy to reach out to. I can reach out to the, what's the COA director's name here in Middleton?
Patricia? No, it's not Patricia.
Susan
Susan.
Gibbon? No, Susan.
Pretty close to being a member.
Gannon? I think it's Susan Gannon.
Beat your house right here in front of everybody, or try.
Reach out to Middleton COA.
It's pretty
Awesome.
fun.
Steve, can you set up, I'll do that, and if you could set up something with John. And we can get him on a call and figure out what sort of next steps we can put into place.
Susan Gannon.
Gannon, thank you.
There you go.
Oh, yeah. Gee, yeah, I know. Okay.
No doubt.
For the more immediate need, though, can the bus company provide a monitor or some supervision
No.
that could?
They don't- I'll ask again, they don't have the staff.
Yeah, we've gone down that road with them before in other situations, and
Yeah.
they're fine with us providing it, but it's not something that they typically.
And is there an alternative to, I mean, I don't, there's an immediate need, and it's not getting better. So the problem that we had in the beginning, I'm not hearing it's getting better. In fact, I've been hearing a bunch more things happening. So I feel like we can't just say, okay, we'll wait, we'll try to get all this other stuff going, and we can't do anything else. Is there a way to get a bus driver from another route that, has no behavioral issues because of the way they manage their bus? To maybe switch it up a little bit? Again, I'm sure everyone in town would
creative
hate
idea.
me, but,
Steve, I would defer to you on that, in terms of moving routes around. Is it a retraining of drivers in terms of knowing a new route?
Contract allows me to do whatever I want,
Okay,
to answer that question.
okay.
Problem that I've got, frankly, not to debate with you, is I'm not getting any information to what you're communicating. And the term epidemic is kind of a big one.
That was for around mental health, not around the bus
That was
situation.
not around the buses.
Okay. So absolutely can move a driver around if we think that that's gonna solve the problem.
But you're still not getting reports from the parents, is that what you're saying? Nothing-
I'm not
nothing about it?
getting any communication, and I'm not minimizing it, I'm not trying to dodge it. Can move a driver, put them on a different route, I've done it before.
So does it make sense for you to reconnect with NRT?
No, I mean, I can just do it, it's doable, but I think, the issue here is, we put it on the driver, and I think it's more systemic, it's not just the driver. It starts in the house and it works its way in, and I think everyone's gotta pitch in.
So you think the next, same thing's gonna happen to the next driver?
No, not necessarily, it depends, I mean, you can get some heavies in there that don't play games and just start writing people up, and then we start getting complaints about that. We had that with a driver that was in Middleton, and there was so many complaints about it that we had to move him and put him in Topsfield, because he was a disciplinarian. So it goes both ways, and then there is a happy medium, where the students respect the driver. But it's a tough job. Your first priority is pay attention to that road, and that behavior on that bus should be understood. That sit in your seat, talk with your neighbors quietly, do not be a distraction. Everyone should understand that.
Can we have a meeting with the kids?
That's where I have to stop.
I know I have. Have you spoken to that bus as a whole? I mean, James gets on that bus
Well, I mean,
weekly.
we get on the buses all the time. I mean, all the
And
time.
I
I mean,
have grabbed them all together, too.
Do you
we
guys
respond to every form
get
that
the
we give.
complaints?
I'm sorry?
Do you guys get complaints?
Yeah, they're sent directly to us.
Yeah, I haven't received
should be
a
from-
write-up from that driver since before Christmas. However, I did receive a phone call from a parent today, which I wasn't able to connect with that parent until the end of the day, so I wasn't able to follow up. So tomorrow I will follow up with the student.
But just one?
Just one.
I mean, I think the last meeting we spoke, there was something like 21 or something like that, incidences.
Over the course of, since the school year started, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
and folks, there were students that were removed that, from the bus,
Right.
that made a big difference. I don't know if they're back on.
But is it still
Are
a
you guys still
problem?
getting a
It's
lot of
still a
calls
problem?
On those buses?
No.
I'm not.
Not in the
there's no
month of,
calls.
not in the month of January. I
No,
would say I'd say September, October, November, December was consistent. January, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think I could say nothing.
Okay.
Is your information recent?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a disconnect
maybe-
happening somewhere.
But if you want, I'll connect with you tomorrow.
Yeah.
We can talk about next steps.
Can you
There's a
urge the
disconnect happening
parents
somewhere.
to
Are you
write
recording your
reports?
complaints in?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I just think from the from a parent-child perspective, totally get like that this is systemic and training and all these things can happen. But these kids get on the bus and this is how they start their day. And then they get off the bus, and it's very stressful.
What's
And
happening,
it's-
what's happening on the bus? Is it the driver that's engaging in the behavior, or is it other students? What is the issue?
Both. So what I'm hearing is there's students on the bus or children on the bus that are very disruptive, rude, and treat each other poorly.
Mm-hmm.
The bus driver, yells to try to stop the behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And there are children that are affected by that because they're not a part of the problem, but it's scary. So it makes for a miserable ride home. They're getting off the bus and they're miserable.
Mm-hmm.
And just in our situation, it went from really bad at the beginning of the year, which was pretty traumatic, to not getting much better. Consistently having issues. And we have a new bus driver. So I don't know what the I don't know if it's.
is it the one
all
bus?
connected.
Is it
Well,
one?
I'm talking about my bus. Mhm.
I mean, if the players are known, can notes be sent home?
So
Or
3
phone
of the
calls.
players were removed from the bus. But there's still stuff happening.
Well,
Yes,
let's,
Freddie, to your answer to your question, absolutely. James and Diane reach out. If some complaint comes in, it's handled, managed, phone calls are made, conversations they have with kids. Like, nothing is, anything that's reported is addressed, is probably the best way to say it. It's that where I say there seems to be a disconnect is like, you identifying that there's still some things happening. Those things aren't making their way, to the principals, in terms of, you're saying January 1 report and no reports. So, but it sounds like you're getting reports of kids that are getting off the bus and still indicating certain things, so somewhere there's a disconnect.
Yeah, and I guess just one more point, and again, I'm not trying to, one more point. Complaints were made, things happened, but the ask was, can we get a bus monitor on our bus? It didn't happen, so there's a level of frustration, because we told them it was gonna
And the
happen.
parent
But it
that
didn't-
called me today wanted to know she must have watched the meeting or
Sure,
whatever and said,
sure.
I thought there was a bus monitor coming.
Yeah.
What's
but
the
it didn't,
story?
it's not that it didn't happen because there wasn't an.
Oh, I know that, but there was no, I know, and I can tell my kids, but no one else knows that, and I think that people, perhaps folks feel that, we've made our complaints, we thought we were getting what we needed, and, okay, now it's, it's starting to bubble up again. We still don't have a bus monitor.
Right, because, again, that was, finding one is obviously the
Sure,
challenge. It's, as Steve said.
That's why I'm just trying to be creative, like,
Yeah.
we can't get a bus monitor, but can we do something else, because it's still a problem.
So I would like to proceed.
Magically, I would love a bus monitor to appear. So,
Can we somehow make the bus monitoring more enticing?
What did you hear from feedback from staff? Not enough.
Couldn't pay me enough to do that?
Not enough.
can we give him breakfast?
Money?
I don't think that's necessarily what people said, but if I've gone up to a lot of individuals who I thought might have the flexibility to take on more hours and would want more hours. I've kept it in my staff memo every single week for probably a month and a half at this point. I had some people who I felt like were close and I was gonna get them, and then they really declined. I'm just wondering perhaps if there was some way to make it more enticing, then someone might have actually come through and said, yeah, I'm gonna do it.
So what do you mean? Like,
Yeah,
give us a little
I'm thinking
more-
money.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know if there's other ways to make things enticing.
I didn't have anyone even
close to that much interest.
Maybe they were trying to appease me.
But that's, we only need two, It's not
Correct,
like we
yeah.
need- If there are a few people that are willing to do it, and
The other piece that's tricky is that we have several of the IAs who work for our after-school program.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're already working for that, they can't do this because they can't work
Yeah.
that many hours. They just can't visit, it's not allowed, so.
Okay.
That, those people are already off the board, off the table.
You made a comment earlier when you described this situation and made it sound like it's more an afternoon problem than it is a morning problem.
Christie, you still there?
I wouldn't say that. I just hear about it in the afternoon
Okay,
because
that's
that's
when
when
they
the
get
kids
home
get
and
off
are
the
able to
bus.
tell you, okay.
Yes.
And I was wondering if maybe we approached it that it was just a one-ride thing.
We could start it
I
that way.
know. I mean, honestly, anything is better than nothing.
Even if a month seemed too long, it could be a week.
Okay.
Yeah, just the fear or them knowing that there's a monitor or the potential for monitor, maybe there'll be some better behavior.
And I don't know who the monitor was that was on ours, but, and again, I sound like a pain in the butt, but he or she sat up at the front and never turned around.
So the parent said that to me today too, and I had no idea that there even was a bus monitor on the bus.
Well, someone
so-
showed up, some adult showed up on the bus for maybe 2 rides.
When, do
Can
know,
you look into
was this a
that?
January thing or like a September thing,
Were they
October thing?
supposed to be there?
When did we start, when did we okay this?
Maybe it was the bus driver's
January, yeah. So it was
friend.
Okay.
Needed a ride.
weeks after that, because I know we had our
Ride to
January
work.
meeting, no one
Her
had
car was
been
broken down.
hired.
Meeting, we had nobody.
Yeah,
It
no
was
one
on
had been
January
hired.
12. Yeah.
So it was shortly after that.
That must have been something there too.
So
look into
I don't
that.
think we're
No,
gonna
Carl,
get.
the only thing I can think is if it was
tonight,
a
I'm
sub-driver
sorry.
and Cindy was with him.
What's Steve?
Right.
Steve's gonna look into
So
it.
the only thing, I mean, I will call on that. I need to know the dates, but either way, the only thing I can think of is if it was a sub-driver and Cindy was with them, if they didn't know the route,
Yeah,
or somebody
she's
was
done
with
that
them
in
if they
the
didn't know
past.
the route.
Yeah.
Could have been, yeah.
Yeah.
We had a lot of sub-drivers. We've had a lot.
I mean, I think we brainstormed some good ideas. Nothing is gonna change for tomorrow, unfortunately, but maybe if we could try to explore these avenues and see, from the bus monitor being half-time to even 1 week.
Or just getting one of them.
Just
Yeah,
getting one of
maybe it's
them.
one person.
Right, exactly.
Alternate buses if need be, or something.
Yeah, calling
Yeah.
NRT.
I mean, all levers are being pulled, right? It's just, we're in this sort of conundrum where we're not able to fill the role. I will reach out to COA. That might be another possible solution. Training. But yeah, I don't think, like you said, I don't think we're gonna come to a solution tonight.
Right.
But we'll keep on it.
I don't think we should rule out exchanging bus drivers or modifying a route if possible as well. Maybe spreading these kids out might help. I don't know. I'm not.
It's not that simple.
Okay.
Because the way that the routes, that last part, the way the routes are designed, it's like this one carves out this piece of land. So that they're not backtracking on each other, because that's
Right.
just time and efficiency. So then you're saying, okay, switch the driver out. So, let me follow up with the superintendent, because you don't want to get into that realm if
No,
you
I
don't
know.
have to as a school committee. Because then everything that's bus routes is just going to go to school committee. So let me just sit down with the superintendent, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay. All right.
Thanks, Amy.
Okay.
All right, so, other items on here, and they're all kind of related to, follow-up from the Saturday meeting on operating budget and coming back to capital. So when we came out of that Saturday meeting, the takeaways were continue to monitor the sections at Fuller Meadow and Howe, and we regroup on those after February vacation, just to kind of check and see what enrollment was. Connect with Masco and explore research of foreign language at elementary schools and what kind of programming would they like to see as we get kids prepared. Looking at specialist subjects for us, what we're required to teach based on DESE requirements. Matt was gonna check with OCR about do we have to reimburse costs. Freddie, I think you had that question about if a student is removed from the bus. The answer to that is no, so we did get a definitive answer on that. Reconnect with NRT about dissatisfaction about cameras. That's part of our ongoing conversation. So all those things sort of weigh in. So one of those items, as we had talked about, was reaching out to our colleagues at Masco about foreign language. And so we asked them a number of questions. What foreign language options do students currently have? Do you find that students who participate in before or after school foreign language program in the elementary schools enter 7th grade ahead of their peers or with any particular advantage? At what level and frequency and duration would students need to participate in foreign language classes at the elementary level to acquire a language even at a basic level? And ideally, what experience, if any, would you want sixth graders to have to prepare them for studying a language in seventh grade? So we reached out to the principal at the middle school, and we reached out to the foreign language department chair. And the responses were, Masco offers Spanish, French, and Mandarin. Well, that's question one. Question two, the main difference we see in students who have had some exposure to languages before seventh grade is an increased confidence level as they start the school year. They may also have a degree of familiarity with some basic aspects of the language. However, soon into the first trimester, all students are on a level playing field as they experience instruction in the four language skills, reading, writing, listening, and speaking, and as they are exposed to different cultural aspects. Number three, this is again from Masco. In my opinion, I believe students benefit most from consistent daily exposure to a target language, even for a shorter period of time. And so this goes back to, and then she gives us some research on that, what we had talked about before, like, foreign language have to be taught like math, to really have the impact that we might want to have at the middle school level. Ideally, she would love it if, again, this is from a Masco perspective, all sixth graders would have at least an introduction to the languages we offer. That could include an immersion experience in a target language. Of course, we would love to see a full foreign language program in the elementary level. Of course, that's what Masco, it would help, in certain terms of that. So those were their responses. We said we wanted to reach out to Masco to find out, was there any sort of benefit from the before and after, and it looks like it dissipates relatively quickly in the first semester, a higher level of confidence and a little increase in terms of cultural aspects of the language. And so the other piece of the Global Child was the spring semester. Kristen and I did have a conversation with Diane Hibner, and that went out. I think the school committee approved 5,000? 5,000 for the spring semester, and it was first come, first serve, and those slots filled very quickly, from what I understand, for the spring semester. We took feedback from the committee, and we did add, and we met with Diane to have this conversation. We did add sort of a behavior plan, behavior agreement, much like we do for the play at Hal Manning. And so that was right on the form as well. And so tightening up some pieces of the Global Child program, and at the same point, as we had talked about in our meeting on that Saturday, reaching out to Masco to learn more about their foreign language programming and what types of things would be beneficial to our kids back here at the elementary.
Excuse me, Scott,
Yep.
do you have, is the Global Child in the drive, what the current numbers are?
I don't have the current
Okay.
numbers. I can get those from Diane.
Okay.
But I know the spots, what would 5,000, what's the tuition? 125? 135, so, 5,000 divided by 135, so 37 slots filled
Right,
like
I
that.
was just curious if
Yeah.
more people than those 37
There
slots.
were more people, because I do believe there were emails that went out that said the free slots are up.
I saw that. Right, so more people signed up?
Yes, but I don't know that we were sent the final numbers.
I didn't receive the final numbers yet.
Yes, this
Yeah,
morning.
I saw a lesson the other day.
Who'd you say?
I saw one of the lessons the other day.
I liked the behavior contract.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
was a
that
good
worked out well.
addition.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I will reach out to Diane. I'm actually emailing her as we speak for the spring.
And
we'll
is
get
it
those
still
numbers.
morning and afternoon that's being offered?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And also an opportunity we had presented some ideas to Diana around maybe alternate teaching methods and things that she could try in Magdala, I think was her name?
Yeah.
Magdala is one of the, her teachers, and she was gonna try to encourage her to try some different alternative teaching methods to come back to see if they're having an impact and effect for the kids. So more to come on that.
And then, James, did you have any luck scheduling like a sixth grade observation day?
So, no, not to that detail, but we did talk about it with the sixth grade team. It is something we'd like to continue to look into moving forward. The problem is the time window it's so incredibly fast. So it's actually open right now
I
for
know.
selection. And literally the day it goes out, the very next day, X amount come back. So it's already done and over with. So what the teachers did this year, as we were talking about it, is they made an all grade level presentation to the kids down in the cafeteria, and they talked about the 3 different languages. They talked about the commitment of each one. They talked about what the learning level of difficulty is for each one, because there's actually, I didn't even know this, there's a rating level, a numerical rating level about the challenge of a different language. They got a little bit about what the experience of each language was. They talked about the prevalence of it out there, kind of how widely it's used and spoken. So they formalized a much more structured, I think, approach to educating the kids about it. There's also resources that Masco shares. There's website links for each language to learn its information, and it comes in a big packet, but the packet's like 15 pages thick. But they highlighted features about those links to learn about the languages for students to look into too. So they are still very much on board on trying to plan something in terms of maybe having Masco kids present something to them. It's not gonna make an impact this year because the stuff's already going through. I think most of the kids have already signed up for things.
Yeah, no, I thought we talked with Diana back in over the summer and then again in September about having Global Child come to the school and.
We
'cause
talked about
she
that at our
had-
meetings too,
Yeah.
when we had with her.
Yeah.
But I think we touched upon it, we didn't put it through the way we put through, like, structuring the behavior contract for Global Child and
Okay.
talking about the free slots around Global Child and stuff like that, so it was kinda like, I think that was probably the agenda item that didn't get seen all the way through.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I think we got kind
Yeah,
of.
because I just feel badly,
Yeah.
putting it on the teachers. That's not what they're teaching.
Yeah, but they,
You know what I mean?
right, but they're
not
happy to
foreign
talk about
language.
the experience.
Yeah.
But it is it's a very fast process, the whole sign up.
Right.
And it happens very early. I mean, it's by the end of February, they're going to have their 7th grade course sign up done.
Right.
And we're still in term 2 right now, and it's,
Right.
we're looking way down the line for these kids.
Right. Yeah, okay.
So into operating budget and capital, so some updates for the committee. So when we met on that Saturday meeting, as the committee may recall, we were at around 9% above last year's fiscal FY19 number. And the direction from the committee was to trend more towards 5, don't stay at that 9%, but to bring that overall budget number closer in line with our sort of unofficial guideline at the moment from our FinCom partners. And so just some updates to the committee on that, the things that we have learned and items that we want to vet out with the committee tonight so it can help us with the budget process. So to move from 9% to 5%, it's about $475,000 to get from the 9% where we are right now to the direction from the committee was to trend towards that 5%. So that works out to about $475,000. We've got some good news from health insurance. As you may recall, Steve was budgeting health insurance at about a 10% rate. And Steve, what is the feedback you're hearing from Town Hall?
Unofficially, we're looking closer to 1.
1%. And so that would be a savings of about how much?
$27,000.
128,000?
Yeah, I'll tell you exactly. So they're looking at
Did
it.
you say a 1% increase?
1% increase,
Yeah.
yeah.
Instead of 10.
We have been
Instead of
carrying
10.
10.
Yeah, so the
And-
savings on the adjustment in the premium is $127,420.
So that brings it down to, to get from 9 to 5 again was about $475,000. If you back off the health insurance, that brings that gap down to about $347,000 roughly. A couple of conversations we wanted to engage the committee in tonight to give us some additional direction. We wanted to have a discussion around special education, stabilization fund, talking about seeing if there's a willingness to access any of the dollars that are in the stabilization fund to help with some of the peaks that we might be seeing in special education. And so if we were able to access that and then, look to refill it if we had money at the end of the year in order to do that. But that would be about $100,000 there. That would bring that number down to around $247,000. So we wanted to talk to the committee about that. Steve and Matt will kind of guide you a little bit through that conversation. We are also looking at specialist programming as we do across all of our towns to make sure that our specialist programming is matching our FTE of the sections that we have, and it all is aligned. And so those are conversations that we're engaging in as well to see if there's any sort of reorganization we can do within that area. And then we're keeping an eye on enrollment, as we said. We would regroup on that after February vacation to keep an eye on those sections that were requested at Fuller and at Howe Manning. But I think tonight for the FY20 operating budget, the two things that we wanted to bring before the committee is the 10 to the 1%, which is really good news in terms of helping to close the gap. And then I'll ask Steve and Matt to jump in on stabilization and special education and start that conversation.
You wanna talk to it?
Yeah, I mean, just talking about the stabilization and the reserve fund, we've had a conversation about that, and the reserve fund is more for the unexpected costs of, a move-in or something happens during the year where we have an unexpected cost that really drives it up, whereas the stabilization fund is more to even out the peaks and valleys of the tax base. So we're talking about the stabilization fund, not the reserve fund. I think the conversation really just looking at the proposal for the special ed numbers is, this is, I guess I would call it a little bit of a peak year in the up and down scheme of things. Some of the out of district tuitions are greatly on the higher side than what is typical. It doesn't mean we have an increase in numbers of students, it just means we have a significant increase in the cost of those programs. So I think that's where that conversation started, right? And when we talked to the committee on Saturday, and I know they're looking for some guidance or looking at the numbers as well to see if this might be a good year to even out that up and down a little bit through the stabilization fund. We're not recommending looking at the reserve fund.
No, the reserve is, Matt nailed it right in the head. The reserve is for emergencies, unforeseens. Stabilization, just by its design, is to help us with foreseeable peaks and valleys, especially within the realm of special education, specifically within the realm of special education. And so there's a balance right now of 152. And, if with the school committee talking with the finance committee, possibly the board of selectmen, if we think that's an advantageous move, then it would be presented on as part of the budget process, the warrant article process, that a portion of our funding would come from the stabilization fund, whatever that amount may be deemed appropriate. And with that being said, maybe one of the strategies we want to look at, and we would work with the finance committee and the board of selectmen, is that if we have any tailings that come from FY19, that we see what the committee's appetite is, and the town's appetite to use some of those tailings to fund the special education stabilization fund. But it's eyes wide open, community gets to vote it, because by design, a stabilization fund is a restrictive mechanism that the only governing body that can establish, take money from, add money to, is town meeting. So that's why you got to have foresight for it, and a credit to the finance committee and the board of selectmen for creating the stabilization fund. It's really a huge benefit to us.
And how did you come up with 100,000 as an amount? Okay. Sounded good.
Well, I could say it's a very scientific formula. It's very complicated, and I can't tell you. But it's really just looking at, it's math, just looking at numbers, trying to solve a problem. What is the balance? What's reasonable? So just weighing in all those things. Okay. Not going crazy about it. Trying to get from point A to point B, maintain the best educational program that we can, and this is a mechanism that maybe everyone has an appetite to take advantage of. And then in the same breath, 19, if we have tailings, it maybe should be our priority, working with FinCom and Board of Selectmen to put money into it.
And that we can, and I guess I'm sorry, I missed that part. We have the authority to do that with the vote at a town meeting?
Town meeting has the authority. Yeah, we can recommend.
But we can do it.
And I'm sorry to mince words with you. It's town meeting. They're the governing body. They're the ones that can do it. We would recommend it.
Right, okay.
We'd say, hey, this is where we think we're gonna land. Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, what do you think about this warrant article to put money into it?
But we have the ability with our tailings to
We
use
could,
our tailings.
If we have
Yes,
tailings.
if we have it,
Right,
yes.
right,
If we're-
but you
if
can
we're
use that
behind.
money
Yes.
and recommend that we
Through
take that
town
money.
meeting, through town meeting.
And I'm sorry if I missed this too. We have to get approval from town meeting to use this the 150 or whatever we
Exactly right.
decide.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly right.
Okay.
And that would be done in the May meeting, not in
Correct.
the March meeting?
May.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that George can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think May is the right venue.
So connected to that, Steve, were there other items? We have levels on there as well?
Right. We, every year, when we go through the developing the budget, as you know, we send a letter out to every MEA member and say, hey, this is where you are, this is where do you think you're gonna be next year? So they give us those letters back, and that's how we create the salary workbook of the budget. And so then what we do is, when we look at the levels, we go and we audit the levels to say, okay, is this realistic? Because they have to have,
Here, Steve.
We want to make sure Christine.
Better now than before.
Yep, okay.
Scott, you just gotta hold it like that, just like you were. I gotta stop talking.
It's all right, we're moving you closer.
Exactly,
That-
that's
that
how
was
that
me.
was said, yeah.
It's like so delicate, right?
Very delicate.
Can you hear me now? It's turning red, it's red. I
Okay,
didn't do anything.
all right, keep going.
All right, so we audit levels, and looking at what's realistic, I think that we can reduce the amount of dollars that we have in the budget by $61,971.
What's
The
that?
levels.
PC connected. PC and smartphone.
Keep going.
That's it.
Can
That's
you
it.
repeat that last line again?
That I believe that we can adjust our budget, reduce it by $61,971, which represents potential level movement.
Sorry, Steve. Sorry, Christie, you got disconnected there.
And that 61,971 reduction would be staff.
Levels.
Staff levels. Okay.
People who had indicated they would, be able to reach and attain a certain
Right.
level on a sheet, and in looking at the data and auditing it, it would not be.
We don't think it's possible. No disrespect to people, it's just, there's too much that would have to be done.
Now, does that also include looking at any staff, I don't know if this is too early in the year, but that may be retiring?
Retirees that we know of, they're factored in, but when you look at the retirees, and it should be highlighted in your salary workbook.
Okay.
Where I get cautious is if they are eligible for the sick leave buybacks and retirement bonus.
Right.
So, and when will they take it? If we can pay them in FY '19 and we have that information, then we can reduce the budget, when you'll assume that the replacement that will be hired will be an M7 or lower.
Right, that's what,
But at this point in time, if I see someone that's retiring and I have a TBA in there, I have their whole salary in. Why? Because you'll have the replacement in there, there'll be less money, but you may be obligated for a retirement, the sick leave buyback, and a retirement bonus. So that gap where you think you're saving in FY '20, you need that money to pay potentially the retirement bonus if they choose to take it in FY '20.
okay, thank you.
So I think from a committee perspective, wanted to get some understanding and direction around looking to begin to reduce that $475,000 gap. And there are certain things in there, Steve, is there a high confidence level on the insurance going from 10 to 1?
I mean, it seems that way, we can always go the other way if
Yeah.
something happens, because we're still in the process.
Yeah,
But I think it's reasonable to have the committee consider, if you
Yeah.
want, reducing the health insurance premium by a total of 9%. Or I can give you the total amount. And then maybe if you want to do the levels, if you
Yeah.
think that's appropriate.
yeah.
And I don't know if you want to talk about the stabilization fund or not. It's up to you guys. If you think that, hey, we like the idea and we want to pursue it, then you could vote that too.
So I think, Amy, from a
Yep.
voting perspective, just to try to, as a leadership team, continuing to work on a banded sheet and to get that number down and to
Yep.
close that gap. If there's a desire among the committee to, vote and say, yeah, we think, we agree, with the administrative team that we could reduce the level 61,000. We could reduce the health insurance from 10 to 1. And that doesn't mean we're locked into that. It allows us, as we work on the banded sheet, to say, yep, the school committee has approved levels $61,000. So now we know the gap is for 10. And the school committee is behind the idea of, decreasing the insurance premium from 10% to 1%, and that's gonna save another 120 plus, and now the gap is this. And that just helps us with our banded sheets. And then, the third one, as Steve talked about, around stabilization, if that's a conversation, that you would like us to engage in with, when we go to FinCom.
Yep.
Amy and I and Steve and Matt are going to FinCom on
The 12th?
Monday.
The 12th.
Next Monday, yeah. So, begin that conversation with our colleagues at FinCom as well. So that would be the,
Okay.
sort of coming out of this meeting, if there's a desire to start to knock some of those things off, so we can start to close the gap.
Okay.
Keep an eye on sections and
Right.
have further conversation at the March meeting.
And logistically, we would vote on each one separately,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
Can I ask
yes.
a question? So we started this conversation at 347,000.
475 mark originally.
475 minus the health insurance brings us to 347.
I can give you the exact number, 347, 580.
Okay.
Yep.
Call it 347,
Yep.
just for conversation. 62, 61, 790, blah, blah, blah.
61, 971.
Yeah, 62,000.
So you're down to 285.
Potential's down to 285.
Yep.
And then you're talking 100 for the stabilization, so 185. That's, okay, I just want to make
Sort
sure we're on the same.
Sort of where you would be.
And
yeah.
that, where is that, what percentage does that bring us to, Steve?
If you did all four of those,
Yep.
then it would be, I'm sorry, I said all four, because insurance is twice. You'd be at 6.57.
One and a half more than the 5 that we're looking at, okay. So,
6.57.
what are your thoughts on not quite using the 100 out of the, we only have 150 in the stabilization fund.
Hmm.
What if we called it 75, just for conversation's sake, and have that there as more of a buffer, just being conservative? If we don't have tailings from the end of this year, now all of a sudden next year we start with 50,000. If we have a major influx of special ed needs, we could be behind the 8 ball starting next year. And if we need to, if coming into the budget, we still need the money, it's there, just for conversation's sake. Okay.
Pat, are you carrying, just remind me, in your special ed budget, are you carrying any, in case of emergency tuitions?
Currently, yes. So, a couple things on that. I guess I would say you never know, right? Let's just start with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
never know.
Yep.
We've been through this a lot. I think, based on how it's budgeted right now in combination with the reserve fund, I think, reducing that 100 to 75, we could, but I feel comfortable at the 100 instead of the 75 because we have other levers to pull if we have that
It comes down to
influx.
it, okay.
I'm also,
Hi, Kristen.
looked at all this and I can project out several years based on current tuitions. And so, what I can say to that is this is definitely a higher year. And in current situations, I think I project that we should go down over the next several years.
Okay.
So again, this definitely fits one of those ups.
If you guys are both comfortable with it,
Yeah.
then that's fine. I just want to be conservative.
No, it's a great point.
Yeah.
But you have some.
Yeah,
Feel safe.
we don't know, but and I appreciate being conservative because I think that always is erring on the right side. But I think with what we have here in combination with the reserve fund, then Steve, I mean, it's up to you too, but I feel comfortable with the 100.
I'm okay, I'm just.
Matt, can you just restate that? You feel comfortable with using 100?
With using with using 100 out of the stabilization, knowing that we still have the reserve fund that won't get touched this year, as well as what we have budgeted for next year in the operating budget.
And you said you have a rainy day fund. Maybe that's not the right.
Well,
word.
no, I mean, I wouldn't do,
I'm sorry,
no.
I don't mean it, I just meant, you said you have a
It's
lot.
we meet several times to really talk about, what September could look like. And sometimes that fully pans out, and sometimes, students' needs fluctuate up and down within
Right.
what our list looks like.
Right.
So if a student.
What kids move.
Right,
Right.
right.
In and out.
And that actually, one of the things that happened, we had to move in and move
That
out.
happened last year to us.
And so, but based on where we're at right now, the way it could pan out with the reserve fund not looking like it needs to be accessed this year. If the reserve fund needed to be accessed this year, I think we'd be having a different conversation.
Yep,
But,
okay.
we're in February, just projecting out where we're at, I don't think we're gonna have to touch the reserve fund of this year, so that will still stay fully funded going into next year.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I just wanted to
Yep.
bring it up.
George, do you have any comments as our liaison?
Yes. Number one, if you use the stabilization fund, you're not reducing your budget. You're changing a funding source. Okay, your budget isn't being decreased.
Right.
Good point.
Number two, if you have tailings They only go into, they end up falling into free cash. You can't direct where it goes. If you have money left over at the end of the year, it closes out to the general fund and to free cash. And then town meeting can appropriate from free cash. But it doesn't go from,
Correct.
doesn't go direct.
Right, it's not, this is not a guarantee.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from a priority
Eyes wide
perspective, if there was something else more pressing in the town, or we were behind budget overall in the town, they would use those tailings towards something else, not back into our fund. Gotcha, gotcha.
Okay. Any other comments about the stabilization fund?
Are you implying we should be looking to cut the budget in other places as opposed to calling that a budget cut?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
And stabilization is the belt and suspenders that, we have that in Middleton, right? We don't have it in, when we talk Boxford has a reserve, Topsfield has neither. So it's in that conversation around, the peak year, it's around special education. I think that was sort of the thought process behind it, but George's point is very well taken.
Mm-hmm. And,
If I can, the point of the stabilization fund is, you have a budget, and if part of the budget increase is because of,
Unforeseen.
not unforeseen, but an extraordinary, in a single year special ed, then that's stabilization, is to take that top off.
Yeah, exactly.
But it doesn't change the budget?
No.
Okay.
okay. While we're on the subject, because you started the conversation about the stabilization fund, are there any other comments? Does anybody want to take a vote on this one tonight? Anyone want to make a motion?
We have levels, we have health insurance, and stabilization is the three that we wanted to bring forward tonight.
Right,
What if we leave out the stabilization for now?
okay.
Knowing that it's there if we need it and talk about it later, sure,
Okay,
I'm okay with that.
so would someone make a motion on reducing Steve, how would you word it for the health insurance?
Reduce the health insurance budget by $127,420.
Okay,
So moved.
thank you, Mark.
You need a roll call.
Who made the motion?
Mark.
M-O-R-E-S-C-H-I.
Mark made the motion.
And somebody seconded?
Not yet.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I just used her words and said so moved.
Okay.
Is it just
Rather
the
than have to.
insurance, or are we doing?
You have to do
Yeah,
it
you
separately.
do them
We
separately.
have to do each one
I
separate.
second it for
Can you state it again, please?
To reduce the health insurance by $127,420.
Second.
Thank you.
Or third, okay. So Christie, you want to start our roll call?
Christy Carroll, aye.
Mark Murski, aye.
Fred Clapp, aye.
Amy Karas, aye. Okay, great. And then the next one was to reduce the staffing levels by 61,907.
Just reduce
Budgeted
the budget,
levels.
budgeted levels, not staffing levels.
Reduce the budgeting
Budgeting level,
levels.
yeah.
Okay.
By 61,
Sorry, word finding is a little off today.
Reword that for
A motion to reduce
budgeted,
staffing?
no.
Budgeted levels.
Lorraine, reduce budgeted levels by 61,000,
Wait a minute. Yeah?
by 61,971.
Start saying reduce staffing and we're gonna have.
Sorry, I'm sorry. You know that is not the intention.
Okay, get it? So
Remember, I also gave the
Christie,
wrong
that's the
date when we
motion.
started our meeting today.
Oh, awesome.
You can second that one, too.
Any further discussion
So what, wait.
about reducing the budgeting levels?
No further discussion.
Does someone want to make the motion?
So moved.
You have to say your name.
Mark Murski, aye.
Okay,
Fred Clapp, second.
okay. All in favor?
Roll call.
Roll call.
Christy Carroll, aye.
Mark Murski, aye.
Fred Clapp, aye.
Amy Karas, aye. Okay.
Excellent. So that gives us some guidance in terms of continuing our conversation. Again, direction from the committee was to get closer to 5, so we will continue to engage and come to the next meeting with more ideas and thoughts for the committee to chew upon. Connects to the capital budget. Just a heads up on the capital budget as well.
Scott, I'm sorry, could we also not remove the conversation around the stabilization fund? I know we are
No, it's not
going
removed.
to.
No, it's just-
But to
it's-
bring it back up, because we
Oh,
are
yeah,
going to
totally.
FinCom
Absolutely.
on Monday, so based on that discussion.
Is it Monday?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Monday.
No, it's Tuesday.
Tuesday. Don't do
Right.
that. It's Tuesday.
I thought we had back to back.
We do.
Okay.
Let me look.
But, okay, so, okay.
We do on Tuesday. We have back-to-back on Tuesday.
Tuesday?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Monday I have negotiations in Boxford. So it's definitely Tuesday.
Okay. Okay.
So the budget itself right now, the increase is at 7.41.
Okay, great.
Good.
Yes.
All right. So the capital, and again, thank you to Amy, Matt, and Steve for attending the joint BOS FinCom meeting on Saturday last Saturday, to talk a little bit about our budget and where we are in the process. Good feedback from those groups, according to the information I had received. And for capital plan, Steve, you want to walk us through that for Fuller and Howe?
Sure, real quick, so looking at the capital plan we have for end user technology, Fuller Meadow, 34,198, that is your appendix N. That gives you all the specifics of what's being requested for end user technology, and that's appendix N as in Nancy, when you're looking at that. For Howe Manning, the end user technology request is 129,249, and again, appendix N in the Howe Manning appendices. Technology infrastructure for Howe Manning and Fuller Meadow is 15,000 apiece. That's not replacement, but expansion of wireless access points, I believe 5 per school, plus a power over Ethernet 48-port Hewlett-Packard switch per school. So that's the 215,000. Next is interior facilities work. Howe Manning is the installation of a, hold on, I need the exact comments here. Water fountain station, we're gonna change it with the water bottle type.
Water bottle filling station.
Thank you. Water bottle filling station.
Nice job.
That's the goal, to
Attaboy.
have that installed at Howe Manning. Fuller Meadow, we have interior work budgeted for, and we'll be looking at this in the capital plan. That has to do some space reconfiguration, I believe, in the modulars, and it also includes some storage and a water bottle filling station as well at Fuller Meadow. So that equals 22,500. Then for the Fuller Meadow campus, we are looking at getting funds for an in-depth feasibility study in the process, or I should say architectural or engineering services, that would start with a feasibility study taking us all the way through bidding for possible 2 ways of egress for Fuller Meadow parking lot, parking configuration. In the same breath, we'd be looking at, because since we'd start touching this stuff, drainage and ADA compliance. Am I missing anything?
Nope, that's it.
So 120,000 is what we're looking at for just a study to take us through bidding. And I've spoke with an architect and I've spoken with a civil engineer, and they're gonna send me like a first level proposal to make sure that the numbers that we have for feasibility study are reasonable. Because we're also looking at 2 other campuses, total campus overhaul as far as parking lot drainage and ADA compliance.
So looking at putting a second driveway here?
We're going to investigate it.
We've had a number of conversations with Andy at the town.
Mm.
This is the one campus where we have one inlet and one outlet. Out of all of our other campuses, there's like a wraparound.
Yep.
Or multiple ways into the school, multiple ways out of the school.
True.
This is our one building where we do not have, it's one driveway in, one driveway out.
You're limited on frontage, right? I mean,
Yeah. So, yeah, we're gonna have to look at all options, but yeah.
But we've met with Andy a couple of times on this, and, I think there's a sort of a general agreement that it's a good idea for us to pursue this.
okay.
Yep.
And that is the capital request. Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. We've got, 49,431 for, 2 NVR replacements at the Howe Manning School, but that may come off. We may be able to take care of that, this year, with some available funding. So that may come off.
Okay.
And that's to get Howe Manning up. As you know, we're putting a brand-new system in to Fuller. That process and work has been ongoing with the wiring. We met with the vendor on that, and the cameras that'll be put in here. And we want to get Howe Manning to match the system that we'll have in here, and that's what that $49,000 amount represents.
Okay.
So those are capital. Also in the drive, you'll find the draft calendar for 1920. And similar to our calendars in the past, a couple of things I do want to point out to the committee. Get back in here because I got bumped out. Middleton, 1819, 26. So the draft calendar is titled Middleton 1920. It's a PDF. So the object here is all 3 towns again having a similar start date of teachers back on the 26th of August, 26th and 27th, students back on the 28th and 29th, and then no school as we've done in the past for the 4-day weekend. As we've talked about in the past, there was a lot of benefit to that schedule in terms of kids returning to school and in terms of being able to start the school year in all 3 towns at the same time in terms of launching all of our staff off into the new school year. September, relatively straightforward. October, relatively straightforward. November, Veterans Day falls on Veterans Day. And what we're doing is putting a teacher day in on Election Day. We've moved that teacher day around in Middleton over the years. We've only used to do it on presidential election years. We're finding that parking and logistics with
Thanks,
voting
George.
here, thank you, George. Parking and logistics with voting here and kids here, it's just been a struggle. We've had numbers of meetings with the town and the police, and so we're just gonna now kind of move forward, making that day always a teacher day. We've moved it on different spots in the calendar, but I think at this point, the general consensus is until voting can happen somewhere else, and we've been engaging in those conversations with the town, to not have students here on that day is a wise move. We have our parent-teacher conferences in there on early December, January, and then obviously the break. Similar schedule to last year, where a half-day right before the break, a 1:15 dismissal with lunch. So about an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes earlier than normal on a typical day. Christmas is on a Wednesday, not bringing kids back that Monday. Monday would be the 23rd. It seems kind of silly to open the school for just one day. But on the back end of that break, returning on January 2nd and January 3rd, we saw benefits in that and having kids come back from a transition of a break into a couple of days as to a full week. We saw benefits of that, so opening on the 2nd and 3rd. That delayed opening that Diane talked about in February and March, I think, we do want to engage in a conversation on that. So I think what we'll be seeking tonight is just tentative approval of the calendar in the sense of, we know what the start and end dates are, because we do get phone calls already like, when's school starting next year? Or when is it getting out? And I want to plan this and that. And we can play with the half-days and the PD days with a tentative approval. March, parent-teacher days again. And we're working with our 2 union co-presidents as well on this calendar. We always have our union weigh in with some feedback from the field, what teachers are experiencing over the course of the calendar year. April, typical break. You'll see in there a May date, and it says May 12th, a teacher day. That would bump the calendar to 185 days. You guys are 184, right? Yeah, that would bump the calendar to 185 days. We just put that in there to kind of signify and notify right now that that's also an election day. And so, it's local elections. It's obviously not as big as state and national and all those other things, but we just sort of marked it as a teacher day in there, only to signify that it's also another election day. And boy, wouldn't it be great if we didn't have school that day. The problem, or the issue that we run into, is that we then have 185 days of school, and contractually, our teachers are contracted for 184 days. Did I say that correctly, Diane? Yes. So that's in there just as a placeholder, marker, reminder right now. I don't think there's much we'll be able to do about the local election day, unless there's some other day in here that we, deem together that we could pull out so we could get down to 184 and cover the 2 election days. But that's a bigger conversation, not necessarily for tonight, but as we just continue forward. I think tonight is just more on general agreement on start and end. And then last day of school with our 184 days would put us at June 15th, and then the 5 snow days would take you up to June the 22nd. So very similar to this year's calendar. We've been bringing these forward to the school committee meetings across all 3 towns at this meeting, at the late January, early February meetings, to get discussion and tentative approval so folks can start to plan what start dates will look like for next September.
Can we get rid of the delayed openings?
So, good question, Freddie. I know they're not hugely popular. The reason those, what's
Or
that?
lose one at least?
Yeah, the reason those are there, we certainly have the conversation. The reason those are there is one of the things we kept hearing from folks is we'd like the calendar at the elementary to match with Masco, as frequently as possible. And the delayed openings allow that to happen. Masco has a delayed opening on the same days that we have delayed openings. I can tell you that Masco was the recipient of a gift from a local fund, actually in Middleton, a very generous gift. And in that gift, the request was to, support teacher development and professional development around social emotional learning. In that gift to Masco, Kevin had reached out and said that the donor also wanted to make sure that the elementary schools were also included in this process and in this training. And I think what we're seeing is that would probably be earmarking those delayed openings, because those are K to 12 days. We have an opportunity to have K to 12 conversations where we would be earmarking those days to execute on that gift in terms of training for staff. So open to the conversation if that's what the committee would like to do. Obviously, we work this through the teacher process as well with our union co-presidents, but I can tell you that the initial plan for those 2 days right now is to make sure that we're connected with Masco to execute on the gift that we've received from a local donor.
I hear mixed. I don't just hear negative. And I think even on social media, it's a very split decision. And I thought we came up with a good solution last year with having the before school program, right? Open as an alternate method for people that need to get into work. I'm kind of curious, maybe for next time, if people took advantage of it.
Well, people did take advantage of it this time. I don't have the exact numbers.
That's okay.
But, and I think she was only able to take 100 students, and we weren't up to 100
I
students.
heard 60-something.
Yeah, I do think we will have more than that for March.
For the March one?
But Myra did a great job with breakfast. So they had like a big breakfast.
That's awesome.
And they had like crafts and things like that. So, I mean, I think the kids had a lot of fun, and
Great.
It was good. I think it will be better to report out after March to see how it works.
Okay.
Just a thought.
No, it's a good one.
Does that help though, the having coverage here if need be?
No. Not that I'm aware of.
Any other questions, thoughts, feedback on calendar? Again, we'd be seeking tentative approval just so we can kind of earmark.
You said you are still coordinating with Masco, so they're very similar.
Yeah, absolutely. Masco's calendar has also been tentatively approved, and they have those delayed opening dates in there.
It's a shame to end the school year on a Monday, because that impacts, like, if people are going to camp, that, I would be curious how many, or vacation, and I know we have snow days, so it may not even be Monday after all.
And if that May 12th day goes away, then.
It's Friday.
Then it would go to Friday.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And if we have 4 snow days, it goes out to,
Can't control that anymore.
Right.
Wednesday, Thursday, so
Right.
it doesn't, it's really hard.
But if you want us to vote on the beginning and the end, then we need to talk about the May 12th.
Well, the beginning is probably more important. I would say
Beginning's more
the
important.
beginning is that's what we're getting calls on right now. Is
Okay.
like when will the school year start next year?
Okay.
And we can come back certainly at the March meeting, and we can kind of unpack further at
Okay.
teacher day and see if we can. I don't know how we could allow for that. Again, it's 185 days. We have to pop a day out of somewhere else, and I think we have to have further conversations certainly around that. But
If we
Okay.
could not vote on the kindergarten day, though, because if that early release day stays on the 28th, then kindergarten will have to be bumped up a day later.
The early release on the 28th, Diane, is,
August.
yeah. so
So
there's-
August 28th, we generally do not have an early release on that day.
Okay,
So my kindergarten staff does kindergarten screening on the 28th and 29th. So if that becomes an early release day, then those teachers would be eligible for that time.
so do we, I'm not recalling in my brain right now why that ended up as an early release.
I asked Antoinette, and she wasn't quite sure either. She thinks it
so I
could
need
have
to
been an
read that.
error. That's why I'm asking not to vote on the first day for kindergarten until we have that sorted out.
Okay.
So tentative approval,
For starting, school for the kids, minus the kindergarten.
Correct.
On August 28th.
Correct.
Does someone make the motion with a roll call, please?
I need to hear it again, the way you worded it.
Okay.
Sorry.
No worries.
I want to get it right.
Good luck.
A motion to tentatively approve start date
For 1 through 6,
1 through 6.
for August 28th.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Will someone make that motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
For the start,
Yes,
Fred Clapp,
thank you.
second.
Okay, all in favor? Roll call?
Mark Moreski, aye.
Fred Clapp, aye.
Mr. Carroll, aye.
Amy Karas, aye. Okay, great.
Nice job, Christie.
So then, nothing in correspondence. For other, I know, Fred, you brought up late afternoon around a residency request.
Yeah.
I was not in my office when I got that email. I have all my paperwork for resident requests in my office. I can check that, and I can communicate to you tomorrow, along with Amy as well.
That's fine.
I'll let you know what the status of that is. And then,
Bills and payroll.
As listed?
So we, as listed. So can someone make a motion, thank you,
bye, guys.
Good night. Thanks for coming.
to approve our bills and payroll as listed?
So moved.
Thank you, Mark.
M-O-R-E-S-C-H-I.
Fred Clapp, seconds.
Thanks, Fred. Great, attaboys.
Nice.
All in favor?
And
Yeah,
you.
well.
Mark
Roll
Moreski, aye.
Fred Clapp, aye.
Amy Karas, aye.
Mr. Carroll, aye.
Okay. And a motion to adjourn our meeting, only to go into executive session
I will
to,
make that motion.
to come back to
For the
end.
sole purpose of adjourning, yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Second.
thank you. So roll call.
Mark Moreski, aye.
Fred Clapp, aye.
Amy Karas, aye.
Mr. Carroll, aye.
Okay.